There we go. Music finally in. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Yes, yes, yes. You got the sound on? Yeah, I can hear it. That's good. Yeah, it's nice and loud too. Yes, sir. Hopefully I can make you deaf. What is going on, everybody? How's everybody doing today? Today is Friday. Yes, sir. Today is Friday. So hopefully everybody is, enjoying, getting ready for the weekend and all that good stuff. Hopefully you had a good week. This week has been a whole lot going on. Graduation week for the children. Maybe last week, maybe this week. Kids is getting out different times, whether it's college, high school, elementary, whatever. But everybody's cheering is getting out. So we are all trying to get things going. And rent is due right around the corner. That is correct. That is correct. Rent is due right around the corner. So you might want to get prepared and get ready for that one. I hope I'm prepared, right? Yes, sir. Yes, 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 man. Today we got a good show lined up for you today, man. It's been a crazy, somewhat hectic weekend, but nonetheless, we are still going to make things happen and get things going on today's show. Today we got a good one lined up for you today, but before we get started, I got to let you know we are simultaneously streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble all at the same time, and I'm still trying to get me a stream key for TikTok and Twitter, but that seems to be one of the hardest things to do. But in the meantime, we're just gonna run amok with these four until we can find out how to get the other two. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor. Whenever you see that like button come up that looks like that, hit that like button to get the algorithm out. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to contribute to today's show, bam, there it is right there. The Cash App and the Venmo. Cash App's gonna be Daniel2888. Venmo's gonna be Daniel-Daniel00. Yes, that is a mouthful. Yes, sir. Thank y'all for that. I greatly appreciate it. But with that being said, we also got to focus on another thing today as well. We got our four topics that we got going on. We got fitness, we have the economy, and we got AI. Fitness, we're going to look at a video by a content creator named Jeff Nippard. He's really good at his videos. He's really, really good at what he does. I got to give him credit. He does. I've been watching him for a good minute. And he's got a video about speaking on steroids and how they are awesome. Now, he's a natural bodybuilder. And he's going to basically give his video synopsis on what he believes and how he sees steroids. And he does a really good, detailed, vivid breakdown on said drug of choice for people in that industry. And he's going to go ahead and go over everything and basically talk about what it is and what his viewpoint is on said particular drug. So we're going to go ahead and check out that video. It's going to be a nice little video to watch. Then we're going to get to the economy portion of the show. And with the economy portion of the show, where are we at? There we go. We're going to look at the economy of what's been going on over decades, centuries, millenniums at this point, to be quite honest. It's the same story over and over. It's just that nobody can really tell. We're going to look at the history of the central banking and the enslavement of mankind. Yes, the enslavement of mankind via central banking. Now, just to know one thing, this is a long segment as far as the particular video goes. So I'm probably going to have to break it down into 3 parts. So today will be part 1. Monday probably be part 2. And then Tuesday be part 3. So I have to break it down into different segments. It's long for that particular topic. But it's something worth noting and worth knowing and worth understanding. It's basically like if you got eyes to see, you can see. And maybe one day, when I sit down and decide to piece it all together, I'll be able to incorporate it all in one just big spiel to give you my personal opinion on what I think, how all this comes together. We'll see. When the time comes, I'll be able to put it together and pull all my sources and give you facts and evidence and case law and scripture and all that stuff. I'll be able to put it together one day, but in the meantime, we're just going to drill you in the head with knowledge, all right? So that's going to be the economy portion of the show. Then we go into AI, and then AI, we're going to sit down and figure out basically we're just going to look at the human cost of AI. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, hey, we're looking at the AI revolution and what's going on and what it's going to cost humans. And I don't think people is too prepared for it. And we're going to look at Google VO3 afterwards and see how wicked and crazy this stuff has gotten, just to show you that everybody in the world with a job is cooked. Yes. Cooked. I say it. Even me. We all cooked. It's cooked. cooked, fried, deep fried, like cooked. It's over. They not playing. It's like, you know, I wish, I need to actually find that. There was this, what was it? It's like X-Men or Marvel or whatever. It's an old cartoon. I forget the dude's name, but the dude had made okay, so you had I think you had the Justice League and Legion of Doom, I believe. I know you had the Justice League. I guess the counterpart to that, the bad side allegedly was, I think it was the Legion of Doom. I think in the video, right, it showed this one dude, basically, let's just call him, you know, like, this is just basically just call him Billy Badass, basically, because you had the Legion of Doom, then you had the bad dude come to the Legion of Doom and say, hey, look, I'm gonna make y'all a proposition. I'm gonna pay y'all up $10 gajillion if y'all can go and eliminate the Justice League once and for all. Like, really get rid of these fools. Like, get rid of them, and I will pay you so much money that you ain't got nothing to worry about for the rest of your life. So they was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? They didn't think nothing of it. They was like, yeah, bet. Okay. Well, it ain't sound good to me. I mean, we've been fighting these fools for God knows how long. And then they were thinking, they was like, wait a minute. If this fool's willing to give us this much money, all of us, what's in it for him? So then he basically broke down his reason. And it's just to sum it up, I'm going to find a video because I have to find that video because it's really interesting how they put it in cartoon form. He ends up saying, he's like, look, I got a plan, and my plan is so massive and so amazing for world domination that the amount of money I give you won't mean jack. So he said, I'm about to pay y'all all this money to take them out. But basically, whenever I finalize my plan, what I gave you won't mean a thing. It just won't. So I don't care how much money I give you, that once I lay this plan out, I win. I checkmate, solo dolo. So I gotta find that Justice League, whatever it is, clip, because it's a really interesting clip. And when you think about what he said, I can practically compare it to what Sam Altman had said. Do I have Sam Altman up here today? Is he on today's show? Sam Altman, you've been on my show yeah, there he is. Yes, sir. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to find it because I need to put it together with that last clip that I have with Sam Altman. I mean, it's gonna make so much sense that when you put it all together and you see what he says and then you see what this cartoon dude says, you're gonna look at it and be like, prepare the meat, so don't. That's really what you're gonna think. You're gonna be like, oh, okay, they've been trying to warn us and here we are. So yeah, it's gonna be a good one today, man. Today's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be a fun one. I got time today. Oh boy, I got time today. We got time to sit down and put all this stuff together. Oh yes, we're gonna put it all together, and we're gonna sit down and see how all of this stuff works. Where's my thing yet? Let me fix this real quick because I got a lot of stuff going on over here. Okay, there we go. We got that fixed. We got that fixed. Okay, we're good. So far, so good. Let me pull my thing back up. There we go. Okay. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and crash into today's show. We're going ahead and start out to the fitness portion of the show and start off with our first video of today. So we're going to make sure that we got this video set up, and we're just going to go ahead and refresh this bad boy because we do not want the problem. Oh, no ads. Sweet. So we're going to go ahead and get straight into it. So we're going to start with the first portion of our show. So bam, pull them up right there. We're going to change that banner. Boom, banner changed. And we're going to get right into it. So this right here is we're going to start off. The name of the video is Steroids Are Awesome. Well, coming from a natural bodybuilder, that seems completely opposite of what you preach, sir. So shout out to Jeff Nippert, fair use. Let's go ahead and give his video a look and let's see what he has for us. All right, take it away, sir. Let's go.
They work. Like, the problem with steroids is that they work. Like, really work. That's probably irresponsible for me to say, but if we're going to talk about the steroid epidemic, we need to do it honestly.
Here's
tell the truth.
3-week trend cycle update for you guys.
Volume trend in Thailand.
Steroids build muscle way faster than something like creatine. It's not even close. If you started taking 5 grams of creatine every day for a year straight, you'd add about 2 pounds of extra muscle. If you started taking steroids at a normal bodybuilding dose, you'd probably add about 20 pounds of extra muscle that year. But it could be more depending on your genetics and how much you take. I'm a lifetime natural bodybuilder, and these are my testosterone levels right now, 485 nanograms per deciliter. That's right around the middle of the normal range for someone my age. This is bodybuilder Chase Irons, the world's most honest enhanced bodybuilder. He also had blood work done this month.
Oh, whoopsie, let me put that on there. So honest enhanced, so he's honest about his enhancements. I mean, and if you're a bodybuilder and you do IFBB Pro, they've all came out and said, look, you ain't gonna be natural if you step up on this stage. If you're doing IFBB, you ain't natural. If you're a bodybuilder, they just let you know off the rip. They're like, no, there ain't no way you get this physique being natural. Like, you are doped up beyond belief.
Where do you think his testosterone levels are? Maybe double mine or triple mine? Nope, his levels are literally off the charts. The test maxes out at 10,000 nanograms per deciliter, and his testosterone was higher than that. He openly admits to taking a lot of gear, and this shows just how big the gap between natural and enhanced can get. More people are taking steroids now than ever before. Why is that? Well, I think it's because more and more fitness influencers are opening up about their anabolic use. In theory, this honesty is a good thing. That's because anyone watching would be able to adjust their own expectations for their goals. If they're natural and they know their favorite fitness influencer isn't, they'd be able to lower their own standards and say,
Liver King. All right, so this guy right here who you see with this amazing physique, all right, he for a long time he was trying to tell people that he was natural, and a lot of people weren't buying it. And come to find out, his abs are surgically implanted abs. So those abs that you see right there on that man's body, those are surgical implanted abs. Yes. Those are not earned abs. Those ain't even steroid abs. Those are implanted abs, bruh. Like, really, and I wonder if his beard and hair is real, because you know he's trying to go for the whole Jesus look up top. But hey, I digress. Let's continue.
Okay, well, now I know that result isn't achievable for me, but this kind of backfired. A lot of people didn't lower their expectations. They just started taking steroids. And the bigger problem is a lot of fitness influencers are only ever partially transparent. They say they're on steroids and they show their gains, but they rarely, if ever, show any of the bad stuff. So the only logical conclusion is that steroids are amazing, but that's misleading. So to help you understand exactly what happens to your body when you take steroids, let's inject some juice together and see what happens next. Good and bad. This is testosterone enanthate. It's one of the most common forms of steroids that people take. It's basically just a testosterone molecule with a carboxyl group attached and dissolved in a vegetable oil so you can inject it. There's also some kind of aromatic compound like benzoyl-benzoate in here, which prevents bacterial growth and helps the testosterone dissolve.
Benzoyl-benzoate. Where have I heard that from? Benzoyl-benzoate. I've heard that in something else before. That's very interesting. Oh man, interesting. Benzoyl-benzoate. I've heard that in like a medication before.
Dissolve better. When you inject the needle into your muscle, a bubble of oil is squeezed in between the individual muscle fibers, which spreads out and forms this elongated shape. The testosterone molecules then slowly make their way into the bloodstream over the course of several hours. There, enzymes called esterases cleave off that carboxyl group, and then the testosterone is carried by molecules called binding proteins to the muscle, where it enters a single muscle cell. Now its job is to make that muscle cell bigger. And if that's all that steroids did, that'd be sweet, and I'd be on them. But there's a lot more that happens.
Stretching will relax.
That's true. Oh, get off my screen, lady. Why you just hop on there like that? You got to at least give us a fair warning or something. Vanya moves. But anyway, so that's interesting. That's actually an interesting concept to see that how the steroid actually works. And me personally, I have a phobia of needles, so I could never inject myself with any kind of steroid because it takes a needle to do, which I do not like needles at all. Drawing my blood for whatever reason is a very nerve-wracking thing. I get extremely tensed up and like flexing the muscle. I mean, I guess I make it easy for them to find the vein, but still, like, bruh, I can't do needles. Now they got oral steroids and stuff like that in pill form you could take, and who knows? Maybe one day I might trade in my natty card just to see what all this ranting is all about. But right now, we got good old Jeff over here who's probably going to, break it down to such a science, because he does have a bachelor degree in like some kind of science field. He's going to break it down to a science to probably sway my decision to stay natty. But Jeff, take it away, buddy. Keep going. Oh, I put you on mute.
Muscle. So, of course, the same thing happens there. The testosterone enters your heart cells and tells your DNA to make your heart bigger. Having a big heart sounds like a good thing, but it's really not. When your heart grows, especially one compartment called the left ventricle, the extra bulk actually makes it harder for your heart to squeeze and relax. This means your heart won't be able to pump blood as effectively, which increases your risk of heart failure. Now, I want to say, I'm not the health police. You can do whatever you want with your own body.
Wow.
And I've got no problem with people who enhance. But I want people to at least be aware of exactly what you're doing and the full effect it has.
Man, he went straight to the heart. You know what I mean? Like straight to the heart. I mean, if that's what it does, that's a very, very risky endeavor. Now, sort of say that could be a risky endeavor in many different ways, and not just roids, but, you know, if you ever, you know, had a party phase in your life where you did ample amount of drugs, you didn't think about your heart when you were doing all those drugs at the club now, were you? So, you know, but the difference would probably be now is like age might be. You might have grown up and matured up and was like, nah, I don't need that stuff. I don't party like that no more. And try and get your body right. And you're thinking that taking roids is a good idea. But just remember, if you're a little bit older, your body might not be able to rebound or handle exactly these roids because, you know, back when you was mixing uppers and downers and alcohol and Mary Jane all in one sitting, your body was like, yeah, we got this. We got this. Party, party, party. We got this. But now things may change. And this is probably some good information you might need to hear.
Good and bad. For example, not many people realize that steroids affect your brain. To explain this,
I did a video on that where a dude talked about steroids warped his mind. It was really interesting. Go check that out.
Find someone with scientific education and firsthand experience with steroids.
Was it him? I think it's his video. I might have done, I think it was his same video. Or maybe it was Greg Doucette.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay, Mike?
Yeah. Steroids can cause in many people really high levels of anxiety. It's dose dependent. It's also compound dependent. Things like Tren cause way more anxiety than other milder compounds like Primo. So this is fun. I haven't admitted this yet, but it's not a particularly crazy admission. I recently took a validated, empirically validated, scientifically based scale for anxiety. And actually currently, right now, I have severe anxiety disorder. It's probably the most severe type of anxiety disorder, short of like panic disorder. And that's actually right now, as I talk, that's what I have. And another one, also another psychological side effect. Some types of your intelligence degrade over time with steroid use. This was tested in people currently using steroids and people who used to use steroids.
Wow.
Most people, they're just totally unaware that steroids have that potential effect on IQ reduction.
Oh, no.
And since IQ or just intelligence is such a global quality that you probably want to hang out to most of it as much as you have. It's a real serious thing to trade off.
And that tracks with the science.
So you mean that you take steroids and a bunch of gym bros are potentially on the road to be a bunch of dumbasses? Like, you know, the gym bros are a bunch of dumbasses. Like, muscle, bro. Look at my gains, bro. I got muscles. Look at me. I'm a dumbass. I'm just joking. That's just funny.
This 2021 study took 3D MRI scans of the brains of over 200 weightlifters. About half of them were natty, the other half enhanced. The scans revealed that the lifters who took steroids had a significantly bigger brain age gap. That means when they looked at the natural brains, their brain age matched their actual age.
Okay.
But the brains of the enhanced lifters looked much older than they should look for someone their age. Their brains were aging faster than they should be.
Okay, so my question would be this. Okay, here's an honest question. Perfect timing because the ad popped up. The brains that they tested on people who took these roids, was it men and women or was it just men? Because that's got to be noted, because one thing we do know is that in the use of steroids, which I've went over videos that talked about this, is that steroids are way more potent on a woman's body than it is on a man's. Like, it is. You know what I mean? Like, you have different steroids, like, what is it? You got like D-Ball, you got Anadroid, Superdrol, or all the, and Anavar. Anavar seems to be the safest one that everybody likes to take. However, Anavar is way more potent on a woman than it is a man, and that's just naturally because it's amping up the testosterone, which is predominant in a man's body and less predominant in a woman's body. So I'm curious with this thing that they did with the brain, is it tested on both men and women or just men? I think that's worth noting. I'm curious if they even puts that out there. But let's continue.
The of steroids is fascinating. Most people take steroids because they want to look.
Bro, these are surgical abs. He even said it himself. These are implanted abs, bro. You wildin'.
Bigger and feel better about the way they look. And I get it. I want to look bigger and feel better too. And steroids will make you look bigger, but they might not help you feel any better about the way you look.
What if you're this big and you can't even turn to wipe your ass? Like you start having like muscle cramps when you try to wipe your ass. Like, wouldn't that be just an inconvenience? Just, ugh.
They actually could make your body dysmorphia worse. That's because a lot of people think if they just start enhancing, then they'll look how they want. But just because you take gear doesn't mean you're going to look like sebum. And then when you eventually come off, you'll quickly lose a good chunk of the size that you put on and feel smaller than ever.
Yeah.
At that point, it becomes near impossible not to go back on, take even more steroids, and the cycle continues. Again, that wouldn't really be a problem if steroids didn't impact pretty much every system.
Jesus, steroids impact your skin, your vocal cords, which we hear that in women whose voice get deeper, mammary glands, which we see in dudes who overdo steroids and they have the thing called gyno something, where they basically develop man breast. You know, they get man boobs and they actually lactate out their nipples. Bruh, like what? Lactate, milk out your male titties. And they actually form, into breast. Then you got the liver, which you don't want to mess up your liver. You don't want to mess up your heart. You don't want to mess up your kidneys. Gosh, who wants to be on dialysis? Your blood. What does it do to your blood? I didn't catch that part. Prostate. Look at all this, man. Like these are testes. Jesus. I can't say this word. I'm not going to try to say it, but it's pointing to the nether region areas for male and female. And then the vasculator, which is, I guess, your calves. I'm not sure what this is, but beyond me not knowing what some of these are, where they're pointing to are vital. But let's continue. Let's keep going.
In your body, but they do. After you inject, some of that testosterone is converted into a hormone called DHT, which causes hair follicles to shrink faster. This is why so many bodybuilders are bald in their 20s. Some testosterone is also converted into estrogen, which can increase breast tissue formation in men, leading to soft, puffy nipples, also known as gyno. The most reliable way to get rid of gyno is surgery, and while most people will take other drugs to prevent that conversion to estrogen, almost every bodybuilder you know has had to deal with gyno at some point. Injecting testosterone also lets your testicles know that there's more than enough testosterone to go around, so they shrink to about 1/2 of their usual size.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. No. So that's how it happens. It happens that way. So so your testicles produce testosterone, but then your body is like, hey, bro, like you got way more than enough testosterone. We don't got to do this. So your testicles are like, so what do we do? And they just like shriek to oblivion. Your balls shriek like the dude on Beetlejuice where he was like, hey, oh, where am I going? Oh my God.
Ability to make its own testosterone, which is why some people need to inject testosterone for the rest of their life. Steroids also make sebaceous glands on your skin grow bigger, which causes them to overproduce a sticky, oily substance called sebum. Sebum moisturizes and protects your skin in normal.
Sebum? Isn't that bodybuilder's name? Sebum? They call him Sebum. Well, his name is Chris Bumstead, so okay, sebum. But this is sebum, which is the oily stuff. Oh, let's just let him finish it. I'm over stopping him.
Produce a sticky, oily substance called sebum. Sebum moisturizes and protects your skin in normal amounts, but causes acne when overproduced. Steroid users will try to combat this by taking other drugs for acne treatment, but then they have their own side effects.
What would be a side effect that most people wouldn't be aware of until you've kind of done it?
I'm done spending an obscene amount of money on takeout every week.
And that guy that he's talking to in the room or whatever, that guy used to be a bodybuilder as well. I believe so. I think he's been a bodybuilder, but he's come out lately and he's talked about so many things that he's had wrong with him. I mean, like a lot of bad things, dude. And I'm just, and honestly, it's gonna sound bad when I say this, but I'm not trying to be rude, but I'll be wondering, like, how is he still walking? Because to see and hear the stuff that he goes through and what he's been through as far as his body from steroid use, like, I'll just be wondering, like, how are you even walking? Like, how are you even making it day to day? But shout out to him, blessings to him, how he's still making it. But he's been through a lot as far as what he's, been dealing with from steroid use.
Yeah, it's a good question. There are a few of those I can think of. Because anabolic steroids are mostly gotten in, at least the United States and Canada, through underground laboratories, some of the gear you get is like damn near farmer grade. It goes in smooth as butter, never does anything, no inflammation. Some of the gear goes in there and boy, does it mess you up. And I have been personally hospitalized at least once for a non-infected but insanely immune responsive abscess. My quad was like half a foot out to one side. I've had friends get hospitalized for abscesses. The doctors have to cut your skin open. They have to drain it. And lastly, the term roid rage, but it's really aggression. And it very infrequently displays itself as actual violent acts, but the thoughts you get on steroids are disturbing. You might like war movies and stuff, but if there's a war movie playing in your head every single second you're awake and asleep, it gets a little old after a while, but you have big muscles, so I guess that's cool. So that's how the cookie crumbles.
Let me get a second opinion on that.
Oh man, I just watched his video, More Plates, More Dates. Shout out to him. He did a video basically where he spoke on like his steroid use back in the day and how it used to be. And I mean, when he spoke on it, I was like, bro, how are you even successful? How did you even make it through college? Like, Jesus, it was bad. I mean, shout out to him. He's doing his thing. I'm just like, how did you even like make it? He was talking about having nosebleeds in public, being at bars and stuff, and just like taking these roids and not understanding how to have a healthy diet, but just it was bad. It was bad.
Hello.
Yo. A pretty common reported anecdote is feeling like you just hit puberty again. For the first 6 to 8 weeks, it literally feels like you're 16 years old again.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's probably not a good thing overall because you're now an adult with the libido of a raging 16-year-old and you have responsibilities and things to keep up with, and all you can think about is your perpetually erect penis, basically, which is not ideal. Increased probability of injury. This is something.
All right, so I guess the moral of the story is wait till you're 55 and start taking steroids. You gonna be out there just
sometimes talked about when your strength is skyrocketing, your connective tissue cannot maintain the pace of your muscular strength, and often this will lead to unnecessary injury in the gym because, if your bench goes up 50 pounds in 6 weeks, you're not gonna hold back. You're gonna keep pushing because this weight feels like a feather now. You're gonna, go as far as it can take you, but your connective tissue is not keeping up with that pace. And you'll see often bodybuilders that end up with brutal injuries.
It's hard to say how much steroids.
I've seen that in high school. I remember kids was taking steroids back in high school, and to see somebody bench 185 to 200, then the next time they're repping 225 and seeing them hit 275, 315 bench pressing this as high school students, bruh, crazy.
Steroids shorten your lifespan, but they definitely do. One 2024 paper followed over 1,000 steroid users for 11 years with an average age of 27. During the same time frame, they also followed 60,000 people of the same age, but not on steroids. 2.8% of the steroid users had died by the follow-up, while only 1% of the non-steroid users had died. That's a lot of excess deaths, which led the authors to note that the excess death rate in this young adult population is striking. Of course, this depends on the dose that you're taking.
I think what a lot of people think is, I'm not going to go crazy with the juice. I'm just going to do a little sports TRT or whatever, 150, 200 milligrams a week. How do you feel about that?
I think the word TRT is very conflated with baby cycle essentially at this point. When you're on TRT, even if it looks on paper like a normal total testosterone, it is not representative of what you could do naturally. So even if you're on
How much should good car insurance cost you a month?
He said baby cycle. So people who taking this stuff, they're like so basically people look at TRT as like not even really steroids, but it's testosterone replacement. But if it's replacing your testosterone, it's made for people who have issues with testosterone. So therefore, it's a testosterone replacement for people who have issues with testosterone. If you don't have issues with testosterone, you're taking a testosterone, basically like an artificial version of testosterone, in my humble opinion, because if it's already made naturally, there's no other way to get it except artificially. So, that's I don't know. It's crazy. But let's let him continue. Oh, sorry, buddy. Got you on mute. Let me get you.
Naturally. So even if you're on low dose TRT, on paper you could define it as such, but it's certainly you're essentially on mini enhancement territory perpetually, which I'm not to say that that's bad, because that's almost like the boat I fall into myself, essentially. It's just a matter of managing the risk to reward on it, and if you feel it is worthwhile for yourself, considerate of all of the factors that underlie it.
Would you say there is a healthy way to use steroids?
So there's everything is a spectrum in this case. So there are healthier and less healthy ways. And if you want to use steroids in a healthier way, then what you're going to do is start with very small amounts of them, check your blood work, do various heart scans and procedure, consult with a professional coach who does this for a living, have a medical doctor on retainer to make sure that you're getting every several months or twice a year blood work. You check your blood pressure all the time. You cycle properly, coming on and off. You take as little gear as will accomplish the effect you're interested in. If you do that, you can definitely do it healthier than not. But, there are ways to race a car and design a race car and design the suit and the crumple zones that make it safer. But as soon as you pass 200 miles an hour, safer is the term. It's not safe. It was never safe. And so steroid use is less safe almost always than not taking steroids, but you can make it very, very safe, or you can make it pretty roll the dice risky. The real big decision is on how you approach it.
I noticed people at
That was actually a good analogy. That was a good metaphor. The way he put that was good. It was very good.
really young age coming up to me and being like, hey, I might hop on, I've been training for a while now, teenagers. Do you have an age in mind where it's this is where, you're old enough to even consider it, and before that, just figure out your training and diet?
Yeah, there's a couple things that go into that. One is some kinds of steroids close your growth plates early, and that means they'll prevent you from reaching an adult height. Some men don't stop growing until they're 22 years old. And if you start taking it when you're 16, you're probably going to be a short king for much longer than you anticipate. Well, actually, a shorter king than you ended up should have become with your genetics. And, to almost the same group of people to whom jacked lifestyle is important, being as tall as possible is also important, seemingly. Another thing is the brain develops in very, very high-level ways well into your late 20s, and in subtle ways through your entire lifespan. And so until about your mid-20s, I would say there's a high probability that steroids will stunt your brain development to a significant extent. And so I would say my cutoff age generally, as the conversation for responsible medically supervised steroid use for serious goals by a serious individual, begins at age 25.
The answer I usually give is get at least 10 years of natural training under your belt, because you'll have figured out what works for your body. And then from there, you'll also by default be at least in your mid-20s. Most people don't start lifting until they're at least, in their mid-teens. So, it kind of ticks both of those boxes. And so, yeah, I always encourage people. It's have you been training hard and smart for 10 years? If not, then I don't think it's decision time for you yet.
And I'll be honest, there have been several moments in my own bodybuilding career.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, for sure, if you are going to take steroids, if that's just the path you choose at the end of the day, regardless of how you feel, lifting naturally first, actually go on hire a bodybuilder coach and actually go through bodybuilding for 1 or 2 years. Just do it naturally. Just follow the diet, do the workout routine, and do all the avoidance of bad habits that you shouldn't be doing. Drink a lot of water, stay away from sugary stuff and processed foods and bread and tortillas and pastas. Follow it to a T and see what your body is capable of. Do the bulk for however long, then do a cut. Do it first. Then once you see what your body can do after however long you do it, then if you, please what you see, stick with it. If not, then, make the choice on what you want to do. But I think he's right. Like, you should go and try to do it naturally first, so you can understand that when you do take the steroid, how to get the most out of it by, actually being healthy as far as your diet and eating and your training goes, as opposed to taking a steroid and not knowing what to do when you're on it, because that's what a lot of people do. They take the steroid and they're just lifting weights, to my understanding. If you go on a bodybuilder routine, then you know how to lift, you know what to do, you know how to eat. Now you're just adding something to it that's just going to enhance what you already know.
When enhancing has been very tempting, even now, especially with the fitness standards increasing rapidly and more
pendulum
and more
squats,
fitness
those are
influencers
brutal.
juicing.
And I think the standards.
How much
have
weight did he have
Standards
on there? Bruh, that is insane amount of weight for a pendulum squat. Like,
Increasing
that is
rapidly
brutal.
and more.
And he's shorter too. Not trying to knock him, but shorter people usually tend to have like stronger squats. But Jesus
More and
Christ,
more fitness
shout out to him.
influencers juicing.
And I think the standards have shifted so much since, we
yeah.
started out like 6 years ago. Like, I was in the natty or not conversation as a physique that's like almost too good. And now six
Now
years
they're like,
later,
"You're small, bro."
it's like you're the guy who doesn't lift but knows,
But instead of enhancing, I've decided to do something different. I keep thinking maybe I've reached my natural limit for muscle growth, but have I actually? Am I actually at my natty limit, or have I just not been training as hard and smart as I could be? I wasn't going to reveal this, but this year I'm doing an experiment with McMaster University here in Canada to see how much muscle it's possible for me to build naturally this deep into my lifting journey. If I do everything perfectly, can I still make gains naturally? So for this entire year, I've been doing everything 100% perfectly in the gym. I'm tracking every single set, taking the last set of every exercise to true technical failure. I'm not skipping any sets or any workouts. I'm also committing 100% to my diet. I haven't missed a single day tracking in macro factor, and I've hit my calorie and protein goal every single day. Now, I'll be sharing my full results at the end of this year, but I can say that I've definitely made some solid gains already. This doesn't...
Hey, that's the key. The diet is the key. If you can nail your diet and then just go and do the workouts with the weights, the diet is the key, and that's the hardest part to do. You can go in and lift the weights and push yourself when you lift the weights, but the diet, boy, man.
Doesn't always show up as well on camera, but I've gotten more compliments about having put on some solid size at my local gym than I've gotten in years. But similar to me, what happens to a lot of guys is that they think they're at their natty limit and only steroids will help, when in reality, they're probably just not being as diligent with their training and their nutrition as they could be. Why not dial that up to 100% first?
Good point.
Then you can make that decision. That's how I feel anyway. And if you want to commit and join me on a year-long journey to truly dedicated lifting and eating, consider downloading my nutrition app, Macro Factor. You can try it for 2 weeks for free to see if you like it first.
Don't do this. Don't do this. Oh, he finished. Okay, well, he's done. All right. Well, hey, let's go ahead and give Jeff Nippert a round of applause, because that was actually a very informative video, like he always does. So shout out to him. Round of applause to Mr. Nippert himself. Yeah, that was a real good video, because he does a really, really good job when he explains his videos. Like I said, he has a degree in science, something. I forget what it is. Some kind of science degree, I believe. But when he does his videos, it's extremely informative. And if you create content or make content, you would actually appreciate his videos more, because you're like, man, he puts a lot into these. Like, I mean, I don't know if he does his own video editing, but I would assume so, because I can't see how you can get someone else to video edit that and put it together that well and be that informative, having someone else do it. Like, that has to be all him. So, I mean, shout out to him. That's really, really, yes, man. Give that man his flowers while he's still here. But, yeah, with that being said, like, understanding the importance of knowing what steroids are and what's the point of using them. Like, a lot of people taking them now, in the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to have a very interesting world that we live in, seeing all of the effects of everything that people have taken to get ahead in life. And again, I'm not knocking anybody for anything that they're doing, but I don't think we've ever been in a situation like this before. It's going to be crazy to see how, steroid use 10, 20 years later, plus a bunch of other factors that, that also play in, you know what I mean? Because right now, like, therapy is a big thing. And if you know anything about therapy, everybody, if you have insurance, they have to diagnose you with something. So then you get on therapy drugs for whatever, you know, anxiety or trauma or whatever you're dealing with, and then turn around and let's say you're a gym person and you go to the gym and you take steroids. So you're mixing your steroids with your therapy medication. You know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff that's going to be, and that's one thing I can name. It's a concoction of a bunch of other things that you can add to it. So just think about that and just see what's going to happen later on at 10, 20 years down the line when these things really take their toll on people. It's going to be a hell of a storm we're going to see coming. But hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. I don't judge anybody for what they do. Who am I? I'm just a regular dude out here just trying to make a living, make a killing on, what is it? Trying to make a living, make a killing on penicillin, God willing, whatever. Yeah. I know, that was a good one. That was a good one. Yes, sir. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing that we have. The next thing that we have is the bone of the day. Do I have the bone of the day pulled up? I think I do. I think we do have it. Yes, we do. We do. It's going to be the anatomy of the skull. Yes. The anatomy of the skull itself is going to be something interesting that we're going to have to look into and get a good deep dive insights to said particular body, the skull, the cranium, your dome. You know what I mean? You're a thinker, or at least the thing that covers the thinker, the skull, the exoskeleton, or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? But I'm always big on trying to educate about the human body, because I think it's a really big deal that we understand the human body, because when you know the human body, you start to realize and look around at the rest of the world and see how things are made and how things are created. And you realize that a lot of these things are created based off of the anatomy of the human body. You know what I mean? Like a car engine, or like a door and a hinge, or things of that nature, you know, like a ball and socket, things like that. You realize a lot of these concepts came from like inside of your body, and people realize like, hey, these things work. We can actually like try this with this and actually use this and utilize this for, you know, whatever reason, or, you know, a product to sell. So it's interesting to know the human body and to understand how it works, and to basically know muscles, bones, organs, all that stuff. And if you're lifting weights, it's good to know the muscles, because when you learn muscles and you understand how each muscle works, you actually know that what muscle is used for what lift. Like, for example, if you're doing, if you're having like lower back pains, a lot of the times, like a lower back pain is like a leading huge, like one of the hardest things for people to try to figure out how to basically heal or get over or fix, because everybody seems to have lower back pain, and we just can't seem to like nail down how to cure lower back pain. And one of the things you would understand is that if you learn about the muscles, what muscle are you supposed to use if you're bending over and you're lifting yourself back up? What muscle pulls your body up? You know what I mean? Whenever you're bent over, what muscle pulls your body up? And to let you know, it's your glutes. Your glute muscles are what pull your body up from being in a bent over position. A lot of people don't know that, you know? So we have lower back pain, but nobody strengthens their glute muscles or even knows how to use those muscles when, you know, you're bending over and getting back up. When you pick something up off the ground, everybody knows you're supposed to lift with your legs, but we don't. We usually lift with our upper body, our arms, or our back, you know, or we hunch over and pull the weight up, but you need to just bury down and use the force from your legs and go from the ground up. So a lot of the times you end up hurting yourself because you don't know the purpose of why you have said muscles. So just to say all that, we're going to get into the bone of the day, which is going to be the skull. And shout out to Ken Hub. We're going to put this on the screen and they're going to go over the skull. And while they're talking, while this video is going on, I'm going to read off basically the skull and the anatomy of the skull and how it works. And video might not match, but it gives you something to watch while I'm over here reading this to you. So we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So the skull of the bone of the day is going to be the skull, the anatomy of the skull. It is a complex structure made up of 22 bones that protect the brain. So it protects your brain. From the structure of the face, the support sensory functions like vision, hearing, smell, and taste. Shout out to Ken Hub and fair use for you guys using this video. And the main divisions of the skull, you have the cranium. The first division is the cranium. It protects the brain and the brain stem, composed of 8 bones. Those 8 bones are going to be your frontal bone, your perennial bones, your temporal bones, your occipital bones. Excuse me, I'm going to say that one more time. The main divisions of the skull, which we're going to start, is the cranium, which is the first one. You got the frontal bone, which is the forehead. You have the perennial bones, which is the sides and roof. Then you have the temporal bones, which are the 2 lower sides near the ears. Then you have the occipital bones, which are going to be the back of the skull. Then you have the sphenoid bones, which is going to be the base behind the eyes. And you have the ethmoid bone, which is between the eyes and the roof of the nasal cavity. So you have all of those. Then you have the facial bones, which are going to be the nasal bones, the maxillae, which is the 2 upper jaws. Then, oh, well, there we go again. They came at us with another freaking, get her off the screen. Get off the screen. All right, there we go. I'm going to get her away from the screen real quick. But then we also have the, where is it at? The zygomatic bone, which is your cheekbones right here. You have the lacrimal bones, which are the inner eye sockets. And then you also have the palatine bones, which are 2 part of the hard palate, the inferior nasal concha. You have the vomer, which is part of the nasal septum, and then you have the mandible, which is the lower jaw, the only movable skull bone. The only movable skull bone is the mandible, which is your lower jaw, which are what, you know, fighters or boxers aim to put you to sleep. You know what I mean? And when you call you got a glass jaw, you know, so you got a weak mandible. You know, it's the only jaw or the only bone in your skull that moves. So it's the only one that actually does any moving. The importance of skull features are going to be the orbits. The eye sockets formed by several bones: the frontal, the zygomatic, the maxilla, the ethmoid, the sphenoid, the lacrimal, and the palatine. You have the nasal cavity, which contains nasal concha and septum, involved in breathing and smell. You have the foramen magnum, which is a large opening at the base of the skull in the occipital bone through which the spinal cord passes. Okay, then you have the external acoustic meatus, which is the ear canal passage in the temporal bone. And then you have the temporal mandibular joint, TMJ, which is the hinge between the temporal bone and the mandible. And if you ever open your mouth and you hear like a pop sound in your head, you know, let's say you have, I think they say you have TMJ. You know, you open your jaw and you hear a pop. If you don't have it now, you get a little older, you might get it at the end of the day, but that's what that is referring to. Now the sutures of the skull bones are joined by sutures, immovable joints in adults. So the coronal suture is between the frontal and perennial bones. The sagittal suture is between 2 perennial bones. Then you have the labidoid suture, which is between the perennial and the occipital bones. And then you have the squamous suture, which is between the perennial and the temporal bones. All right, then the skull in children, infants have fontanelles. Fontanels. There we go. Infants have fontanels, which are soft spots where structures have not yet fused. So if you ever found like if you ever had a baby, something that you would need to know. If you ever have a newborn baby, or if you know anybody or whatever, you'll notice that they have a soft spot right at the top of their brain, or right at the top of their skull. And what it is that the skull hasn't fully developed yet. It's really soft. Like it's almost like you can feel like you're touching their brain with a soft spot up here. It's normal. And that's what they're referring to. It allows the brain to grow, and it's easier in children. So that's what they're speaking on, that very soft spot that babies have at the very top. So you always got to be gentle with that right there. So yeah, so that's basically the anatomy of the entire skull. I mean, they're just basically speaking to you right here about everything that I just said, and it's showing you different locations of what each section is. And I guess I can potentially let them just go over it and finish out the rest of this video, because there's not that much left. But then again, you would be hearing it twice, and I don't think you need to hear it twice. I think my voice was beautiful and elegant and lovely and masculine and divine enough that you probably heard enough coming from me. So with that being said, that is going to be the anatomy of the skull. So shout out to Ken Hub or Ken Labs for that one. We appreciate you. All right, so now what we're going to look at is we're going to take a jump over to Anatomy Labs. Shout out to them, fair use. We're going to look at a quick video that they have. They have a real skull, a real human skull that we're going to look at. And they're going to give a quick little anatomy of the human skull, just so you can see what a real one looks like. Because you always see with like a 3D image or whatever it is, but you're going to see actual real human. Like, this is the real deal Holyfield, you know, so just think. This person got decapitated. They rubbed the skin off. They rubbed the muscles off. They took the eyes out, the tongue out. It was gruesome when they did it. But hey, now we're left with the skull. Or, you know, they dug up a body that was decomposed and, you know, just cleaned it off at that point. But whatever, you get what I'm trying to say. So anyway, we'll look at a real human skull right here. And we're going to let the Anatomy Lab fair use go ahead and break this down for us and just, you know, give us a little more insight. So here we go.
One of my favorite things about holding this skull is that when I tilt it up like this, you can see where the roots would dig down into, or I guess in this case up into the maxillary bone. That's the upper jawbone. And if you look here, you can see where the multiple roots from, say, the molars would go, and then as we come over, you can see where it transitions into like the canines and incisors. It's just really cool to me. It's almost like teeth footprints. One of my favorite things about holding this skull is that when I tilt it up like this, you can see where the roots would dig down into, or I guess in this case up into the maxillary bone. That's the upper jawbone. And if you look here, you can see where the multiple roots from, say, the molars would go, and then as we come over, you can see where it transitions into like the canines and incisors. It's just really cool to me. It's almost like teeth footprints. One of my favorite things about holding
teeth footprints, that is really actual interesting to look at. Just taking a look at it without him speaking and just looking, this is where all our teeth would be right here. That is insane. And then we have this hole right here that goes right into your nasal cavity. I mean, all of this is basically intrinsically or particularly designed a certain way, and it all has a certain function. And this is probably something that most parents with their first child have a crazy probably sense of feeling. I know I did. When you have a kid and as a man, you sit down and you think to yourself, maybe as a woman too, I don't know, I can only speak for as a man. But when you sit down and you think to yourself, you know what I mean, like, my baby batter created a skull, it created a spine, it created arms, humerus, femur, tibula, fibula, digits, phalanges. It created all of that on top of organs, small intestines, large intestines, liver, kidney, lungs, heart, muscles, biceps. I mean, and when you sit down and actually think that can come from you, that is a hell of a power to bestow and have. That is just crazy. I mean, when you actually think about it, like when you have a kid and you're holding your baby in your hand, I know that thought crossed my mind because I'm looking at my kid and I'm like, this dude has a heart, lungs, you know, toes, like throat, thorax, like all these different things. And I'm like, all this came out of my ball sack. That is just intriguing. That is just the most amazing thing ever. I'm just like, yo, like, man, like it puts things into perspective. You know what I mean? It really makes you think. It really makes you think about like who you are. It puts things into perspective. It's like, bro, I created this with, you know, with some pushing and you know, with some pushing and shoving. You know what I mean? And releasing into a womb. Like, you know, I mean, I gave the life, and you know, the egg is the incubator, you know what I mean, but my life is in there and then it grows. It's just crazy, you know what I mean? It's really insane. It's really insane. But yeah, you know, that's just, you know, another part of life that we all deal with. Some of us, if we are, you know, fortunate enough to have children or choose to have children, you know, that's something that you'll probably go through and understand. But understand the human body and just know that you replicate all of this, all from your life force, you know what I mean? So food for thought, something to think about. I think it's just really intriguing to, you know, realize that you can duplicate this from yourself. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I'm like, you need to work out and exercise every single day, because you don't want to just be walking around looking like the Michelin Man, and you know, your little swimmers are weak. You know what I mean? Your libido is low. You know what I mean? You got like one in you, and you know what I mean? And then you're good for like 5 weeks. You know, if you stay physically active, your refractory period as a man as you get older turns around a little bit quicker. You know what I mean? So you can be a little bit more active when you're out there in these streets. But anyway, I digress on these streets. Let's go ahead and continue on to the next portion of the show, which is, should we show this? Nah, we're not going to show this. We'll show this another day. We're going to move on to the next segment of the show, which is going to be the economy. Yes, sir. The economy. We're moving over to the economy. I need to have little bitty transitions into like each segment. I think I'm going to start doing that. Have a transition into each segment of the show. But we're going into the economy portion of the show. We're going to look at a video which is going to speak on the history of central banking and the enslavement of good old mankind. Yes, the enslavement of mankind, looking at the view through history. Yes. Yeah, man. It's gonna get pretty grimy out here. So what we're looking at basically is we're gonna look at a video, and it's fair use by Peace Dozer. I haven't really watched this video at all yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shot and do a blind reaction to it as well as we go over it. It's a long one. That's what she said. It's a long video, and going over it, we're gonna sit down. I'm gonna break this into 3 parts. So this is gonna be part 1. So this video is gonna take, you know, however long this one's gonna take. It's gonna take a good minute, and before we get to the next segment. But we're gonna go over 2 separate videos. I think 2 videos would be good to go over today, and then we'll, you know, finish the part 2 and part 3, like I said earlier. But for this one, we're gonna go on the beginning of the video, and it's gonna speak on the very beginning portion of this video. It's gonna speak on usury, and how usury destroyed the Roman Empire. So we're going directly into that time frame, the Roman Empire, and how usury destroyed it, and understanding that when you look at the history of all wars and all revolutions and a lot of conflict that we usually look at, if we go through history, I mean, and like I said, we're looking at the Roman Empire. You can even go further back than that, but we'll always see this common theme. If you can scrape the surface, because we're always given a surface response. The surface response is, for example, the Confederate War was fought because of racism. Okay, that's the top layer. But if you go deeper, you usually find out there was money involved. There was something that had to do with something that had to do with money. And when you dive deeper, you realize it had to do with banking. Banking is the thing. Banking is the cause of a lot of fighting and wars. And you think that we're going to war to fight this country versus that country, but it's not about country versus country. It's about banking trying to take over the country that they're fighting with, basically. Like, this country doesn't want to be basically dominated by a private group of individuals' currency and then be under their ruling thumb of central banking. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and put this video up on the screen. We're going to change that banner really quick. Bam, we're on the economy portion of the show. So fair use to Peace Dozer. And we're going to go ahead and watch this video and react to it as we go along. So with that being said, as you see right here, as what I was saying, we got Lincoln, we got Caesar, we got the little mustache man, we got JFK, got Gaddafi. So these people are from all different time frames and time periods. I mean, Caesar over here, Caesar was around when Jesus was around. So I mean, this just gives you like the time frame, and I'm pretty sure we can go further back than when Jesus was even in the picture. So this shows you how deep this history goes and how the same story potentially replays over and over and over again. Let's learn.
To Mankind by Stephen Mitford Goodson. Chapter 1. How Usury Destroyed the Roman Empire. Money, being naturally barren, To make it breed money is preposterous and a perversion from the end of its institution, which was only to serve the purpose of exchange and not of increase. Men called bankers we shall hate, for they enrich themselves while doing nothing. Aristotle, Politics. The monetary systems of the Roman era, 753 BC to 565 AD, may be divided into 3 distinct periods where units of 3 different metals were used as the means of exchanging goods and services. Although there is evidence of modern human occupation, Homo sapiens sapiens,
That is a very disturbing image, I must say.
in the Rome area going back 14,000 years, with Neanderthals having lived there approximately 140,000 years ago. Rome as a city is traditionally said to have been founded by Romulus and Remus in 753 BC in a region surrounding the Palatine Hills, also known as Latium. According to the legend, Romulus, who killed his brother Remus, became its first king, but later shared the throne with Titus Tatius, the ruler of the Sabines. Around 600 BC, Latium came under the control of the Etruscans. This lasted until the last king, Tarquin the Proud, was expelled in 509 BC and the Roman Republic was established. The Etruscans, a people of Aryan origin, created one of the most advanced civilizations of that period and built roads, temples, and numerous public buildings in Rome. The first money used in Rome was the cow. This was not true money, but a barter system.
All right, so the first money was used was a cow as a bartering system. So at the end of the day, it was considered money because it was something that people agreed on to exchange with. So you would consider it money because it was just a medium of exchange and what 2 people agreed on. As long as 2 people can agree on something that has value for this and value for that, it doesn't matter what it is. Like if I have an old car that I want to sell and get rid of, and somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, look, I don't have any money, but I got this. I have a cow, and I have a buddy who is a butcher. He'll, I can show you the cow, and you can butcher and have all the meat from the cow for, basically payment for the truck. And I can, look at if my truck is worth the value of an entire cow being butchered and all the meat being sent to me in a deep freeze, and I could be like, yeah, that works. That's cool. Let's do it." So at the end of the day, as long as you 2 people can agree on the exchange of what it is, then, that is, basically what you can consider, in a sense, not true money, but something of value for money, replacing money.
Many early peoples used cattle as a medium of exchange. According to the legend of Heracles in the Aegean stables, the cattle kept there, over 3,000 in number, represented the treasury of King Aegeus. The Copper Age, 753 to 267 BC. As time went on, the Romans took to using, instead of cattle, irregular lumps of copper or bronze. These lumps were called ius rude, rough metal, and had to be weighed for each transaction. There was an increase in trade, and Rome became one of the most prosperous cities in the ancient world. This prosperity was based on uncoined copper, later bronze, metal which was measured by weight according to a fixed system of units. It was issued by the Roman treasury in the form of ingots weighing 3.5 pounds, 1.6 kilograms, with the full backing of the state, and was known as ius signatum, stamped metal, because it was stamped by the government with a cow, eagle, or elephant or other image. Sometimes they were made to resemble a scallop shell. In 200.
Okay, so then metals were always a sense of exchange as far as money goes. So metals were always used, and the metals that they used were, like they say, copper, bronze, and I'm pretty sure they're going to get the silver and gold at some point, but metals were always a thing that was used as a medium of exchange, at least for us, as far as some kind of value. At what point did we get to paper? But let's keep going.
189 BC, these ingots were replaced by discoidal, cast-leaded bronze coins, ius grave, heavy metal. They represented national money and were paid into circulation by the state, and each was only of value inasmuch as the symbols on which its numbers were recorded were scarce or otherwise. This money was thus based on law rather than the metallic content, although that content was standardized and the coin did have some intrinsic value, unlike most coins today. This can be considered as an early example of the successful use of fiat money. While fiat money is much criticized in some quarters, for example by the followers of Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises, there is nothing wrong with it as long as it is issued by government, not by private bankers, and is carefully protected against counterfeiters.
We gotta let that run again. All right, let's hear what he said again.
Use of fiat money.
While fiat money is much criticized in some quarters, for example, by the followers of Austria economics Ludwig von whatever his name is, there is nothing wrong with it as long as it is issued by government and not by private bankers and is carefully protected against counterfeiters. Okay? That needs to be paid attention to. They're saying that fiat currency is always been a thing, but it's okay to use as long as it's issued by governments, not private bankers. Here we go.
Fiat money is much criticized in some quarters, for example by the followers of Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises. There is nothing wrong with it as long as it is issued by government, not by private bankers, and is carefully protected against counterfeiters. Non-fiat money, in contrast, has the serious drawback that whoever sets the prices of gold and silver, i.e. private bankers, can control the nation's economy. Up to 300 BC, there was an unsurpassed increase in public and private wealth of the Romans. This may be measured in the gain of land. After the conclusion of the Second Latin War in 338 BC and the defeat of the Etruscans, the Roman Republic increased in size from 2,135 square miles, 5,525 square kilometers, to 10,350 square miles, 26,805 square kilometers, or 20% of peninsular Italy. In tandem with the expansion
increased by 5 times their size. That's crazy, or almost 5 times their size. That is crazy.
Its land area, the population rose from about 750,000 to 1 million, with 150,000 persons living in Rome itself. A partnership was formed between the Senate and the people known as Senatus Populusque Romanus, SPQR, the Senate and people of Rome. The political leaders were renowned for their frugality and honest virtue. The means of exchange was strictly regulated.
Whoa. We can't let that go. The political leaders were renowned for their frugality and honest virtue. Where the hell did those political people go? we ain't got those political people no more. Where the hell they go? Look at this. The political leaders, they were renowned for their frugality. Bruh, frugality? Nowadays, they like, hey, hit the button. And all you hear is this is what you hear right here. As soon as they say hit the button, where is it? This is what you hear right here. You hear this right here. You hear this right here. They're like, hey, we good? Was that enough? No. Hit it again. That's what we hear now. And then they like, okay, you get 1 billion, you get 1 billion, you get 500 million, you get 300 million, you get 20 million, you get 1 billion. Did you go to war and fight for the country? Here's $100. That's how they be doing. Just straight dirty work. Oh man, I don't mean to laugh, but I mean it's just true. That's how they do, unfortunately. And then honest virtue. Boy, how many times we done caught these people in some crazy stuff.
Political leaders were renowned for their frugality and honest virtue. The means of exchange was strictly regulated in accordance with the increase in population and trade, and there was zero inflation. Debt bonded.
Zero inflation? Zero inflation? What? Sounds like these people knew what they were doing. And I think there's a reason why people said that they don't want it to be controlled by private bankers. Just talking. I could be wrong.
Regulated in accordance with the increase in population and trade, and there was zero inflation. Debt bondage nexum, whereby a free man offered his services as security for a loan plus interest, and where in cases of non-payment the debt had to be worked off, was abolished after plebeian agitation by the Lex Potelia in 326 BC. The Silver Age, 267 to 27 BC.
Okay, so we're going through different ages. Interesting. So we're going through different. So the first age was Copper or Bronze Age. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch the first age. Let's see, we're at 423. Yeah, right here. The Copper Age was 753 to 267 BC. All right, that was the Copper Age. Everything we went through was the Copper Age. Now we're in the Silver Age, 267 BC to 27 BC. Now, these different ages that they're starting to name, it makes me think of like a verse from the Bible, not a verse, but a part of the Bible, I should say, where I think somebody had a dream about like a statue, and it had like clay feet and like bronze legs and silver this, and I don't quote me on it, but if you know the Bible, you kind of understand what I'm trying to say. I have to go look at that again and see if I can apply this to it, just to see if they correlate.
The traditional money system was destroyed in 267 BC when the patrician elite attained the privilege to mint silver coinage. This change was typified by a patrician who went to the temple of Juno Moneta, from which the word money is derived, and converted a sack full of silver denarii to 5 times its original value by the simple expedient of stamping a new value on the coins. He thus pocketed a very substantial difference in seigniorage for his own private account. The early Roman silver coin was known as the drachma, and was modeled on a coin used in the Greek south of the peninsula. It was later replaced with the smaller and lighter denarius. There was also a half denarius called the quinarius, and a quarter unit called the sestertius. Still later, the system was supplemented with the victoriatus, somewhat lighter than the denarius and probably intended to facilitate trade with Rome's Greek neighbors.
Okay.
There were very few deposits of silver in the Italian peninsula, and as a consequence, the Roman army had to be expanded in order to conquer territories to obtain supplies. The Roman peasants, who had provided the Republic with food independence, were drafted in increasing numbers into the army. Agricultural production, especially corn, declined, and the peasant farms were replaced by latifundia, which were large estates worked by slaves.
Oh, man.
Wheat also had to be imported from North Africa. Tensions about granting citizens...
Okay, so now we got import coming from North Africa. Now, there's Rome, because remember, we're looking at how usury destroyed the Roman Empire. As we see, Rome is just constantly growing. This insatiable growth that it's having is just nonstop. So what we see, remember, we saw it went from like 2,000 square miles to 10,000 square miles in like a given time frame. So that's a huge growth. And now from there, we're still growing. And now the money system has changed. We're from copper, the copper age, now we're in the silver age. So it's still going, and we're gonna see how this all plans out.
Citizenship and enfranchisement between Rome and her Italic allies resulted in the Social War from 90 to 89 BC. This lack of enfranchisement had led to the fragmentation of Roman society and the alienation of the working class citizens, who were treated as chattel and who had no responsibilities and therefore no commitment towards the state. Until as late as the Second Punic War, from 218 to 201 BC, they were not allowed to serve in the army. This was a classic example of a society which had been monetarized. The Republic was weakened and there was increasing despotism. Piracy became a major problem, with raids taking place on the coast, villas being sacked, and travelers kidnapped. Violence became endemic and gangsters and terrorists were active in Rome, as there was no police force to maintain law and order. These are inevitable consequences of a society in which money had become the highest ethos.
Bruh, hold up. Hold up. I'm going to read that myself. Piracy became a major problem. Okay, let's just figure this out real quick. Piracy. Let's figure out what that word is first. Piracy. The practice of attacking and robbing ships at sea. All right, cool. So we know what piracy is. Attacking and robbing ships at sea. So raids were taking place on the coast. Villas being sacked and travelers were kidnapped. Violence became endemic, and gangsters and terrorists were active in Rome, as there was no police force to maintain law and order. These are inevitable consequences of a society in which money has become the highest ethos. And for those of you who don't know what ethos is, I will read the definition for you. Ethos is... what is the meaning of ethos? Here we go. The disgusting character, sentiment, moral nature, or guiding belief of a person, group, or institution. So money is the highest belief of a society. All right, let's keep going.
There was also political intrigue amongst the elite. Economic deprivation caused discontent amongst the poor, who were increasingly slaves from North Africa, and social unrest. This turmoil culminated in the revolt led by Spartacus in 73 to 71 BC. The first and second revolts were in 135 to 132 BC and in 104 to 100 BC. The Jewish role in the collapse. The first known Jews who arrived in Rome in 161 BC were Yehuda and Maccabee.
Okay.
These early Roman Jews employed themselves as craftsmen, peddlers, and shopkeepers. In the last occupation, they also indulged in money lending. As a community, they lived separately in apartments. They governed themselves according to their own laws and were exempt from military service. In 139 BC,
Hey, did you pay attention to that right there? The Jewish role in the collapse. The first known Jews arrived in Rome. They were named as Yehuda and Maccabee in 161 BC. These early Roman Jews employed themselves as craftsmen, peddlers, I don't know what a peddler is, and shopkeepers. Let me figure out what a peddler is real quick just to make sure I don't have it wrong. Let's see, peddlers. What is a peddler? Peddler is a person who sells illegal drugs or illicit goods. A person who goes from place to place selling small items. So the first sense is selling illegal drugs or illicit goods. The second sense of the second definition of the word is a person who goes from place to place selling small items. So here we go. So the early Roman Jews, they employed themselves. And when they employed themselves, they clearly were peddlers. So they sold their own things, whether they be good or bad. They were shopkeepers and they were craftsmen. So whatever they crafted their stuff. They opened up shop and they sold their stuff and they peddled whatever else they could find. In the last occupation, they also indulged in money lending. As a community, they live separately in apartments. They governed themselves according to their own laws and were exempt from military service. So they were doing it right. It's the best way to put it. They were doing it right. That's what you're supposed to do. Employed themselves. They were the manufacturer and the seller of their own goods. And as a community, they lived separately and they governed themselves to their own laws. So they weren't a part of society laws because they stayed out of society, and they were exempt from military service because they governed themselves and followed their own laws. And I guess a good example of this would be Amish people. But let's continue.
governed themselves according to their own laws and were exempt from military service. In 139 BC, the Jews, who were not Roman citizens, were expelled by Praetor Hispanus for proselytizing, but they soon returned. In 19 AD, by means of a senatus consultum, Emperor Tiberius expelled 4,000 Jews who had been involved in various scandals, but none of these expulsions was properly enforced, and their continued presence, in particular as usurers, would play a significant role in the decline and collapse of the Roman Empire. Julius.
All right, and real quick, we need to figure out what this word is. Usury. How do I spell that word? Usury. There we go. Usury. What is usury? The illegal action or practice of lending money at unreasonably high rates of interest. Oh my days. Listen to that. Usury. Does that not sound like something we deal with all the time now? We're going to go back right here. Usury. In particular, as usurers, they would play a significant role in the decline and collapse of the Roman Empire because they continued to do usury, which is basically apply illegal or high interest rates, basically is what it is. The illegal action or practice of lending money at unreasonably high rates of interest. That's just what this is. So usury is that right there. So
usurers would play a significant role in the decline and collapse of the Roman Empire.
So basically they got their money up, and when they got their money up, which I would say to an extent is fair. They followed their own stuff. They crafted their own goods. They were peddlers, which they did some illegal stuff probably, or they just sold their own items, and they had their own shop. So they manufactured, they created their own goods, they sold it at their own shop, and then as peddlers, either they got it illegally or legally, who knows? I would say both. And then on top of that, with the money that they had, when they lended out money, they lended it out, but they were like, this interest is fair to be astronomical for you to pay back. And that's what they did.
Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, 100 to 44 BC, was born into an aristocratic family on July 12, 100 BC. He was tall and fair-headed and practiced briefly as a lawyer before becoming a brilliant military commander who conquered Gaul, France, in 59 to 52 BC. After his defeat of Pompey the Great in 48 BC at Pharsalus, Caesar became the undisputed leader of the Roman Republic. On his return to Italy in September 45 BC, Caesar found the streets and cities crowded with homeless people who had been forced off the land by usurers and land monopolists. 300,000 people had to be fed daily at the public granary. Usury was flourishing with disastrous consequences. The principal usurers, many of whom were Jewish, were charging interest rates as high as 48% per annum.
Jesus.
As Lucius Annaeus Seneca, 4 BC to 65 AD, the philosopher, would later remark in De Superstitione, the customs of that most criminal nation have gained such strength that they have now been received in all lands. The conquered have given laws to the conqueror. At that time, there.
All right, let's go back to that real quick. What did he say? 300,000 people had to be fed daily as the public granary. Usury was flourishing with disastrous consequences. So, what we have here, on his return to Italy in September 45 BC, Caesar found the streets and cities were crowded with homeless people who had been forced off the land by usurers and land monopolists. Right now, as we speak, in our current existence that we live in, are we not seeing a lot of people having a hard time paying rent, paying bills, property taxes going up, and you're never really allowed to own your land out of with a allodial title? I mean, unless you know exactly how to do that, but your property taxes are going up and people are, getting to the point where they're being priced out, and then they get priced out and you have 300,000 people had to be fed daily at the public granary. All right. Usury was flourishing with disastrous consequences. So basically lending these homeless people who need to be fed, lending them money with extremely high consequences, which today that is something that is going on. I forget what the name of the card is called. What is this high interest card? What is this high interest cards called? It's something that's going on right now where you can actually put, businesses are doing it right now to where you can put like anything on a card and you're going to get charged these ridiculously high rates to pay it back later, but you're not going to pay it back. So we got this going on. And then the principal usurers, many of whom were Jewish, were charging interest rates as high as 48%. All right. So it just looking at that right there. We have homeless people forced off their land by usurers and land monopolists. Right now, we're seeing that right now as we speak. So let's continue.
Lucius Annaeus Seneca, 4 BC to 65 AD, the philosopher, would later remark in De Superstitione, the customs of that most criminal.
And shout out to the Jews, man. I ain't got nothing against y'all. I'm just reading what the document said. Shout out to y'all.
Nation have gained such strength that they have now been received in all lands. The conquered have given laws to the conqueror. At that time, there were two main political parties, the optimates, centered around the nobility, the Senate, and the privileged few, and the populares, who represented the citizens. Caesar immediately assumed leadership of the latter.
All right, cool. So now what do we have? Two political parties. Sound familiar, doesn't it? Two main political parties. The optimates, who centered around nobility, the Senate and the privileged few. Okay, Senate. All right. And the populares, who represented the citizens. Caesar immediately assumed leadership of the latter. In other words, he was a part of the populares. Okay, so you have two class of people. Okay, two main political parties. Some people might say this is going to be your Republicans and Democrats. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this is going to be the optimates. To me, sounds a lot like the word opulent. If you know what the word opulent means. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick crash course. The word opulent is basically meaning, excuse me. Opulence. Is it opulence? Opulence. Yes, opulence. There we go. Opulence. Sorry, wrong word. Opulence is great wealth or luxuriousness. So opulence sounds like optimist to me. That's just me talking. So I would say that these two main political parties or two main political classes, I'm going to say that this is the elites. And then the populares, you can just call this your political party. You're red and blue. You're Democrats, you're Republicans, bird of the same feather. So you got the elites and then you got the political parties. That's just how I look at it.
populares, who represented the citizens. Caesar immediately assumed leadership of the latter. Caesar fully understood the evils of usury and how to counter them. He recognized the profound truth that money is a national agent, created by law for a national purpose, and that no classes of men should withhold it from circulation so as to cause panics, in order that speculators could advance the rates of interest, or could buy up property at ruinous prices after such panic. Caesar introduced the following social reforms. 1. Restoration of property was done at the much lower valuations which held prior to the Civil War, 49 to 45 BC. 2. Several remissions of rents were granted. 3. Large numbers of poor citizens and discharged veterans were settled on allotments. 4. Free housing was provided to 80,000 impoverished families. 5. Soldiers' pay was increased from 123 to 225 denarii. 6. The corn dole was regulated. 7. Provincial communities were enfranchised. 8. Confusion in the calendar was removed by fixing it at 365 and 1/4 days from 1st of January 44 BC. His monetary reforms were as follows. 1. State debt levels were immediately reduced by 25%. 2. Control of the mint was transferred from the patricians, usurers, to government. 3.
Now, I'm going to let it finish. I got to just say something real quick. The way this is going, sound like Buddy going to meet his end pretty soon, because it sound like he's messing with he's messing with somebody's money. You know what I mean? Because remember, he was a part of the populares, and you had the optimates, which I call the elites, and then you had the populares, which is the political party. And I'm pretty sure the elites is like, you better follow what we say, or you gonna get dealt with. My opinion.
Cheap metal coins were issued as the means of exchange. 4. It was ruled that interest could not be levied at more than 1% per month. 5. It was decreed that interest could not be charged on interest, and that the total interest charge could never exceed the capital loaned, the in duplum rule. 6. Slavery was abolished as a means of settling debt. 7. Aristocrats were forced to employ their capital and not hoard it.
Sheesh. Slavery was abolished as a means of settling debt. Now, you can't go to debt. You can't go to prison for I guess a financial debt in today's world, but if you don't pay your child support, they will put you in jail for breach of contract, which is like you're behind on your payment, but at the end of the day, it's called breach of contract, so it's a little loop around. So yeah, that's back in effect. And aristocrats were forced to employ their capital and not hoard it. Aristocrats. Let's find out who aristocrats are. Aristocrats. Aristocrats are members of the nobility, traditionally holding positions of high social status. So basically, he was like, "Look, man, you need to employ people with your money and not just hold on to it. So come on off that."
Debt. 7. Aristocrats were forced to employ their capital and not hoard it. These measures enraged the aristocrats and plutocrats whose livelihood was now severely restricted.
Uh-oh.
They therefore conspired to murder Caesar, the hero of the people. On that fateful morning of the...
Isn't that what I just said? That's what I just said.
15th of March, 44 BC, only 4 years after assuming power, he arrived at the Senate building unarmed, having dismissed his military guard, who had previously been in constant attendance. Surrounded by 60 conspirators, he was stabbed to death and received 23 wounds. The Gold Age, 20...
So, if you look at it, where is it at? Right here. These measures enraged the aristocrats and the plutocrats whose livelihood was now severely restricted. They therefore conspired to unalive Caesar, the hero of the people. So basically, when you read up on all these rules he was putting here, his monetary reforms were as followed. State debt levels were immediately reduced by 25%. Control of the mint was transferred from the usurers to the government. Right there, the control of the mint money was transferred from the usurers to the government. Cheap metal coins were issued as a means of exchange. So, I mean, pennies, quarters, dimes, nickels, but not those, but you get the idea. It was ruled that interest could not be levied at more than 1% a month. It was decreed that interest could not be charged on interest, and that the total interest charge could never exceed the capital loan. In other words, if you got a loan for $200, you can't have $300 worth of interest on a $200 loan. Slavery was abolished. I just went over that. And aristocrats were forced to employ. I just went over that. So right here, the control of the mint was transferred from the usurers to the government. So at the end of the day, you can see that this man was basically executed because he was messing with money. And you can tie it all, and you can tie it back to this right here. The control of the mint was transferred from the usurers to the government. This right here is banking. This right here, this is banking. This is what this is. This whole monetary reforms, this is banking. This whole thing is banking, but number two especially. This whole thing is banking. That's why homie met his end right here. This is why this is why et tu, Brute happened. Et tu, Brutus.
He was stabbed to death and received 23 wounds. The Gold Age, 27 BC to 476 AD. In 27 BC, shortly after Caesar's death and his deification, the Romans adopted the gold standard, which would have far-reaching implications for the financial stability of the empire and lead directly to its demise. Previously, during the days of the Roman Republic, gold coin...
All right, so we're in a gold age now. So 27 BC to 476 AD. All right, so now we are basically looking at the financial stability of the empire and so this is what led to Rome's demise. So let's see.
Coins were issued only in times of great need, such as during the Second Punic War or the campaign of Lucius Cornelius Sulla. There were very few gold mines in Europe, except in remote places like Wales, Transylvania, and Spain, and therefore most of the supplies could only be secured from the east. This in turn required a large and expensive army, which became engaged in constant conflict at the empire's fringes. The gold coin was known as an aureus. Also in circulation were the silver denarius and the copper coins, the sestertius, dupondius, and the as. The scarcity of gold or commodity money frequently induced periods of deflation as a result of the lack of a circulating means of exchange. In 13 BC, a measure of relief was provided when the weight of the gold aureus was reduced from 122 to 72 grains, and this remained the standard weight until 310 AD. However, metals continued to flow eastwards in order to pay for luxury items, religious dues, and usury payments. Furthermore, wear and tear resulted in the loss of 1/3 of total coinage in circulation over a 100-year period.
Okay.
As gold was treated as a commodity, its debasement was not tolerated. Emperor Constantine, 275 to 337 AD, personally ordered death for counterfeiting and the burning of public minters who committed falsification.
Okay, there we go. All right, so we have a penalty here. So we have Constantine. He personally ordered death for counterfeiting and the burning of public minters who committed falsification. Excuse me. All right, so let's see. Debasement, which I understand is devaluing something. All right, so exactly. So debasing is basically he's saying that the gold was treated as a commodity, and if you try to lower the value of gold, he didn't tolerate it. That was a no-no. So Constantine personally was like, look, anybody counterfeiting this is going to meet their end, and we're going to burn anywhere that you were doing this minting of falsifying gold. So you cannot fake money. That was a huge no-no. Constantine was out here putting an end to people for basically, counterfeiting money. All right, and this is money. This is money. We can call this shekels. This is what we can call this. We can call this shekels. So let's keep going.
Money changers who did not report a counterfeit gold bezant, solidus, were immediately flogged, enslaved, and exiled. These regulations were effective for the bezant, which weighed 70 grains and was slightly more than the bezant which was still circulating in 1025 AD and weighed 68 grains. In 313 AD, Christianity was tolerated by the Edict of Milan, and from 380 AD was established as the official religion by Emperor Theodosius I, from 347 to 395 AD. From this time, monetary power resided in the religious authority of the Pontifex Maximus. A feature of the imperial era was social injustice and the undermining of the middle classes through excessive taxation. The Roman businessman was not a trader, but a looter of the provinces, as the homeland had a weak industrial production base, which was incapable of providing the required manufactured goods. As the monetarization of society continued, with the rich parasitizing the common man, the plebeians became more like slaves. The abolition of the jury system was symptomatic of the declining respect and importance for the common man in Roman society. Role of the church in the decline and fall. The tax that Emperor Constantine decreed, viz., that 1/10 of all income had to be tithed to the Christian church, hastens the destruction of the empire.
Jesus. No. No. Did he really just say that? Oh my God.
He didn't say that. Tell me he didn't just say that.
Oh my goodness, bruh. The role of the church in the declining fall. The tax that Emperor Constantine decreed. This is a decree. You finna do this. That 1/10 of all income had to be tied to the Christian church. Hastened the destruction of the empire. For people who don't know what hasten means, I'll look it up for you. Here we go. I'm going to look at the word hasten. Is to be quick to do something. Quick. What does hasten mean? To encourage to move or act quickly. So basically, it sped up the destruction of the empire. Oh my goodness. Yo. That right there is a bar. Good Lord.
1/10 of all income had to be tithed to the Christian church, hastens the destruction of the empire. Eventually, the church held 1/3 to 1/2 of all lands and accumulated wealth. This concentration of wealth produced a great scarcity of coinage. Money existed, but there was no circulation or distribution of goods and services. Instead of recycling the tithed money by means of investment in the community or charitable works such as construction of hospitals, schools, and libraries, vast hoards of gold were concentrated behind the 20-foot, 6.1 meter, thick walls of the fortress city of Constantinople and the Vatican fortress in Rome.
Gosh, hey, this dude is dropping some serious bars right now. I hope you can understand what's going on. This is crazy. Instead of recycling the tithe money by means of investment in community or charitable work such as construction of hospitals, schools, libraries, yada yada, vast hordes of gold were concentrated behind the walls. And man, and right now when you see people who open up churches, it's crazy how quick they can just open up another church. And another church and another church. Like they just be opening up these churches. And then right here, they said it right here that 1/10 of all income had to be tied to the Christian church, which sped up the destruction of the empire. Good Lord.
6.1 last years in the 5th and the fortress city of Constantinople and the Vatican fortress in Rome. In its last years in the 5th and 6th centuries, the Roman Empire had become a parasitic organism, subject to alternating phases of inflation and deflation. Its economic ruination preceded its political ruination. There was no industrial production, almost all food had to be imported, and usury was practiced on an unprecedented scale.
All right, so then here's my, oh man, I don't want to say, I'm going to say it right now because I hate to keep pausing it, but I have to point things out. When you see this happening, now we're looking at the fall of Rome, right? Rome was, and we're going all the way back BC. We went through the copper phase, the silver, now we're at the golden era, all right? So we've gone through 3 different eras and, tons of wars, tons of revolutions, tons of people, all right? Imagine when you look at the repetitive cycle that keeps happening over and over and over again, trying to basically control a currency and then basically apply usury amongst the currency amongst citizens. When you add AI to this, AI, when it becomes, a thing and it starts to become, well, it is a thing already, but when it becomes like an actual walking human, talking robot and walking around and all this stuff, it's going to download and comprehend all of this history and it's going to look around and be like, yo, this shit ain't finna happen to us. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just me. I mean, I don't think you're going to apply usury to AI unless you got a nuclear button to push.
The wealth of the empire that was not held by the church was controlled by 2,000 Roman families. The rest of the population lived in poverty.
God
Consequences.
dang.
The implosion of the western half of the empire in 476 AD, after repeated military incursions by the Goths and Vandals, resulted in the Dark Ages. A punishing multi-century deflationary depression followed. According to the United States Silver Commission of 1876, the metallic money of the Roman Empire at its height amounted to $1.8 billion. But by the end of the Dark Ages, it had shrunk to $200 million.
What?
Agriculture was reduced to subsistence level. Large sailing vessels vanished as there was no trade. Commerce stagnated. Arts and sciences were lost, and the knowledge of cement making disappeared. Major factors in the decline of the Roman Empire were the concentration of wealth, the absence of mining deposits for industrial production, and the vast importation of non-white slaves with the resultant degradation of the genetic value of the nation. By the 4th century AD, as a result of the continuing decline in Roman female fertility, slaves outnumbered citizens by 5 to 1. The most important economic reason was an inadequate supply of an inexpensive circulating medium of money and the false notion that money should be a commodity. Thus, from an economic perspective...
So are we at that point now? By the 4th century AD, as a result of the continued decline in Roman female fertility, which we're dealing with that now because nobody wants to have kids, slaves outnumbered citizens 5 to 1. Change that. Immigrants outnumbered citizens 5 to 1. Are we there? Are we at this point? Because right now, the decline in female fertility, that's a thing. We all know that. The most important economic reason was an inadequate supply of inexpensive circulating money, of a medium of money, and the false notion that money should be a commodity.
Of money and the false notion that money should be a commodity. Thus, from an economic perspective, the lessons from the fall of Rome are that of a dishonest economic system will inevitably contribute to the forces of dissolution. No society can survive a false economic system. For any society to function and prosper, it is absolutely fundamental that the means of exchange be issued free of debt and interest by the legal authority of the state as representatives of the people in perpetuity. A history of central banking.
Wow. Yo, that's part, you know what? We have another one, the hidden origins of the Bank of England. We can, you know what? I'm going to break all of these down into different parts. So we'll probably end up having like 6 different parts. So we're just going to take that part right there and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. But before we do, give a round of applause to those truth bombs that was being laid in there, boy. Jesus. That was fantastic. If you understand what was being said, especially the part about the church, that was pretty brutal. That was a decree. Tithing is a decree from Constantine. Tithing is a decree from Constantine. That was, I got to find that real quick. Tithing was a decree that Constantine put in the gold era. Where is, I got to find it. There it is right there. The role of the church in the decline and fall. Oh man, Jesus, it's crazy. The tax that Emperor Constantine decree, which is still going on today, that 1/10 of all income had to be tithed to the Christian church, quickened, hasten is the word, but it means to speed up, to make something quicken the destruction of the empire. Bruh, that's still happening today. That's still going on today. That's still happening nonstop. Like his decree is still being pushed today. That's to show you, like, he put a decree in way back then and it's still being implemented till this day. That is wild business right there, man. Yo, that was a good freaking video. I enjoyed that. Hopefully you did too. We're going to go ahead and take this and we're going to move on to the next segment. All right. The next segment is going to be AI. We're going to go into the AI portion of the show. Man, that was freaking phenomenal. And you know what? Before we move into the AI portion of the show, we're going to lighten up the mood a little bit. We're going to check out some AI military women. Yeah, let's check out some AI. I wish I had some music to go with this, but we're going to let them play some music. Let's check out these AI military women, our strong women out here. Here we go. Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, yeah. Ooh, wee. Oh, man. Wee. All right. Yeah, buddy. Oh, my goodness. Just the military women? Okay. Look at this. That's what I'm talking about. Send me off to war as a medic. Yeah, let me be a medic. Oh, hey, Japan up in this joint. Yeah, oh my goodness, this is lovely. Look at AI go. I hope I had my country right. Forgive me if I didn't. Look at this. All right, send me out there with these women. But I'm gonna be the cameraman though. Like I'll be the cameraman. Yeah. For sure, I'm gonna be the cameraman. If I'm gonna go to war for these strong women, you know, I'm gonna be the guy holding the camera. You know, so when you look at history on the back end, like 50 years later, 100 years later, and you got all that footage, and you wonder like, who was holding the camera when all this stuff was? That was me right here. That's me. I was holding the camera. All the debauchery was going on. I was holding the camera because they gonna get lonely. Oh, they gonna get lonely, boy. Guess what? I'm gonna be in there like this. Just clapping everything up, boy. Just me in there clapping it all up, boy. Look at that. Yes, sir. Oh, I forgot to change the banner. I got excited. I got a little too excited. Look, they got the country flag up here, boy. Yeah, send me there. Where y'all at? Come on. Oh my goodness. This AI is getting out of control, boy. This AI is getting out of hand. Sheesh. Oh man. All right, you look a little too strong. Get away from me. Move. Back up. Don't smile at me. Back up. No, I ain't subscribing. But Jesus, oh my goodness. Let me. Oh man. All right. Calm down. All right. Let's get back on track here. All right. So we got to get back on track. We got to get back and basically talk about what we got going on in the AI section of the show. So we have a gentleman who put together a video, and he was basically talking about the revolution of the revolution of AI and the flaw that I guess people are not seeing that AI has coming. And he's going to go into detail and explain about the fatal flaw of the AI revolution that's to come, or that is here. I can't even say that's to come because it's already here. It's not even like a past thing. It's like happening as we speak. And a lot of people are not up to date on it or paying attention. And AI is moving so quickly and so rapidly that a lot of people are not paying attention to it. And the people who are paying attention to it are the children, are, you know, the younger generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They see it, they understand it, they comprehend it, and they're using it and they're utilizing it. And it's a shift that's happening, because anytime a shift happens, you usually go to the children. The children are the future. That's who you apply I guess that's who you apply the pressure. That's who you apply the change to. You apply that to the children, and they're going to grow up with it, and they're going to know nothing different. You know what I mean? They're like, well, this is what we know. This is how we grew up. So we're going to look over at Undecided with Matt Farrell. Shout out to him, fair use on this video. I'm going to go over his video, and he's going to talk about the AI revolution and the fatal flaw that it has, and we're going to see exactly if what he says adds up. So with that being said, without further ado, we got this video up here, and let's go ahead and let it play. Take it away.
You've seen the headlines,
AI,
the viral demos.
Watch Canva code it for you.
AI writing essays, generating photorealistic images, even creating entire videos. It feels like we're living in a sci-fi future, or a dystopian one. But while we've been mesmerized by chatbots and deep fakes, something much more important is happening behind the scenes. AI is solving problems we thought were decades away, from curing diseases to inventing new materials that could reshape our world. And yet, there's a catch, a paradox. Because this same AI revolution that's supposedly going to create incredible wealth for companies might be laying the groundwork for an economic collapse that threatens the very progress it's helping to create. Let's dive into the most overlooked part of the AI revolution and the economic flaw that could unravel it. I'm Matt Farrell. Welcome to Undecided. It's a little bit of a different one for me. Usually I focus on the brighter side of tech advances that are impacting our lives. But over the past few weeks, I've seen several YouTube videos that took the spark of an idea that was quietly flickering in the back of my mind and doused gasoline on it.
Now, while we're watching this, I do want to put this seed in your brain. I want you to think about this. When you're watching this video, okay, we just looked at the history of usury, or basically the history of central banking enslaving mankind. That's the name of the video. Well, when you watch that video and you saw the history of how far back it went, and you bring us all the way up now to that future with AI, do you see, or do you have an understanding as to how the businesses are going to implement using AI? And ask yourself this question: what do they do with humans?
Many of these videos kept bringing up the incredible financial potential for companies that are building the hardware that's powering this AI revolution, like NVIDIA with its GPUs or Tesla with its future Optimus robots. It always comes down to something like Company X is valued at Y dollar market cap because of the incredible future potential of what they're doing with AI and robotics. But let's start with what most people are missing in that conversation.
I don't know what most people miss in that conversation, but that ad came out of nowhere. I guess Matt's over here getting that bank, getting that big bank. Hank, he's getting paid out there in these YouTube streets. Shout out to him. But let's continue. Where is it? There it is. Here we go. Continue.
AI. What comes to mind? Maybe the latest news about ChatGPT 4.1, or maybe Midjourney or Sora. I've been using tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity more and more to help with early research and parsing the news for YouTube videos, or looking through large documents and research papers to find the exact sections that I'm interested in. I use it kind of like Google search on steroids. Now, these tools are amazing and sometimes horrifying, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. Large language models, or LLMs, may be getting all the buzz, but AI tools go far beyond that. Take material science, for example. Scientists used to spend years, sometimes decades, trying to find just the right compounds for better batteries or solar panels or superconductors. But now, well, AI is accelerating that process exponentially. DeepMind recently predicted the properties of over 2.2 million new inorganic materials, compared to the roughly 50,000 inorganic materials previously cataloged by the Materials Project. Microsoft's MatterGen goes even further. It's a generative AI trained specifically to discover new materials. Now, what used to take entire research teams years now takes weeks or even days.
We are able to generate materials, not at random, but targeted for specific applications.
The implications are staggering. Better batteries, faster electronics, cleaner energy. And what's more, this doesn't just stay in the lab. A recent collaboration between AI researchers and Microsoft have newly discovered materials to prototype batteries with up to 70% less lithium. It's already influencing next-gen consumer tech. Then there's medicine. AI is helping to detect cancer earlier, designing drugs faster, and even assist in gene editing.
So with all these pluses with AI, now go back to the previous video, ask yourself, the people who were implementing usury and were charging high, crazy interest rates and were basically dominating nations via central banking and usury, using those tactics, and every single time somebody would try to come and put a stop to it, or basically, try to put, basically lay the law down and say, hey, we're not doing this no more, or basically put restrictions and God, every time that happened, we saw the person get, taken out. Now, question is this: they kept going and they get to this point. My question is, you no longer need humans for, like he just said, what took scientists years or decades is now taking them weeks or days to do. All these things are being done at such an astronomical rate that you don't need the human intelligence no more. You have this artificial intelligence that is just way better than human intelligence. So my question is, what do you do with the humans when you instill AI into walking, talking, living robots? What do you do with humans?
Companies like NewMedi are using AI to find new treatments for diseases like cystic fibrosis and sickle cell anemia. A recent study found AI could improve early-stage cancer diagnosis, which could literally save millions of lives. AI is also being used to simulate complex drug interactions, saving billions in research and helping to get treatments to patients faster. And it doesn't stop there. From product development to climate modeling, AI is driving innovation at a pace that we've never seen before. For example, Pepsi. Pepsi, of all the companies, used AI to reduce product development cycles by 40%, leading to lower emissions and better aligned consumer preferences. And BMW now uses AI not just in design, but to optimize entire supply chains, shaving off inefficiencies that once cost them millions. So if all of this sounds like great news, it's because it is. Or at least it should be. But here's where the story starts to twist. Now, before we unpack the economic twist that could flip this whole story on its head, let's take a second to talk about protecting your digital world in this age of AI. I was just on a trip to a geothermal conference, and between the conference Wi-Fi hotspots and the hotel Wi-Fi, I leaned heavily on Surfshark VPN to keep my connection.
Oh, you stop it. Da, 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 da. All right, we get it.
Surfshark and all of you for supporting the AI revolution toward an economic cliff.
There's no question artificial intelligence will remake the workplace.
AI is replacing human tasks faster than you might think.
Artificial intelligence could replace millions of jobs.
Not could, it is.
The same AI that's helping to cure disease and build better tech is also replacing human workers at an unprecedented rate. Goldman Sachs estimates that 300 million full-time jobs could be replaced by AI in the coming years. That's not a sci-fi scenario. That's from one of the largest investment firms in the world. Customers...
300 million. Let's go ahead and look at that real quick. March 31st, 2023. That's 2 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. Goldman Sachs predicted 300 million jobs will be lost or degraded by AI. This article is more than 2 years old, is what he has. So he said this is being said 2 years ago. At this point, it's slightly over 2 years ago. So, yeah, they saw this coming a long time ago.
That's not a sci-fi scenario. That's from one of the largest investment firms in the world. Customer service, banking, logistics, finance, entire sectors are being automated. A 2023 survey by Resume Builder found that 37% of companies using AI had already laid off workers, and another 44% expected to in 2024. Even creative industries aren't immune.
Jesus, let's look at that again. 53% of companies that use AI and 24% plan to start in 2024. 37% of companies using AI say that technology replaced workers this year. 37% of companies using AI say technology replaced. 44% of companies surveyed say AI will lead to layoffs. We're already past 2024. 96% of companies hiring in 2024 say candidates will benefit from having AI skills. There we go. And 83% say AI skills will help current employees retain their jobs. So 83% say AI. Okay, so therefore, the moral of the story is learn AI. That's really what it is.
44% expected to in 2024. Even creative industries aren't immune. AI tools are already writing marketing copy, generating visuals for ad campaigns, and even scripting rough drafts of TV shows. It should be obvious why this concerns me personally. AI is coming for my job. In the earliest years of my career, I did UI and graphic design work and got paid good money to work in Photoshop.
Yeah, well, not anymore. Buddy's not getting paid them big bucks anymore. However, he already understands the pivot and how to move. And learning AI is very paramount to doing so. So learning anything else other than AI is a complete, utterly waste of time. So you better get on it and stay on it and don't switch from it. Oh, where is it? Here we go.
Tools that I use today that can isolate the subject of a photo, drop it into a completely different space, blend the lighting conditions, and give me a fantastic looking YouTube thumbnail. All quickly. From a text prompt and attaching some source photos. No Photoshop required anymore. I'm still part of the process as the human and the creator, so in theory, these tools boost productivity. That means fewer people are needed to produce a given thing. You can do more with less. And that creates a chilling question. If more people are out of work, who's left to buy the products and services that these companies are offering? That's the paradox. Because in economics, there's an assumption that productivity leads to prosperity. But if AI automates people out of income, the demand side of the equation starts to collapse. This is what most people and most businesses aren't talking about.
Exactly. Okay, so here's the paradox. So therefore they're saying like, okay, but you put people out of work, who's gonna buy your stuff? Well, here's the thing. What I've been showing you with the previous video of the usury of with the history of usury and how it was going to enslave mankind with central banking, remember that they spoke on using of a fiat currency. If it's held in the hands of private bankers or private people, then therefore it's going to be an issue, because remember, they counterfeited the money. When the money gets counterfeited, you're no longer using money, you're using somebody else's created currency. And then they tax you on this created currency. And then when they tax you to oblivion on this created currency, they get paid for it, right? And then they turn around and they hoard the gold. They hoard the real money, the gold, the silver, and stuff like that. They take it, they hoard it. And if you can think on how long this has been going on and how much gold or stuff they've been hoarding, because we even saw that they even had to tell these people, hey, we need you to employ people for the economy and not just hoard your wealth. Well, if you hoard the wealth, and how long have you been hoarding the wealth, and then you create another digital currency, which at the end of the day, it's just nothing but numbers on a screen, like, it's game over.
So let's break it down. Companies like Tesla aren't just building cars anymore, they're building robots. CEO Elon Musk has said that Tesla's value will eventually rest more on Optimus, their AI-powered humanoid robot, than on their cars. And Tesla is betting big on AI, not just for self-driving vehicles, but also for fully autonomous manufacturing and service robots. Their stock price reflects this belief, with analysts pricing in trillions in future revenue from products that don't yet exist. But who will buy those cars?
Jesus, what is that? Tesla stock could soar 550% to $5 trillion after notching its worst day since 2020, according to Wall Street, March 14, 2025. See, on March 10th, Tesla stock declined 15% in its worst trading session since 2020. Shares have now declined 51% from record high reach. So that's then. But I mean, if they're going into AI, then your money needs to go towards these stocks that are going to make crazy money with AI.
And trillions in future revenue from products that don't yet exist. But who will buy those cars or anything else if automation leads to mass unemployment? It's a feedback loop with dangerous implications. We saw this kind of paradox before in a very different form. It's called the Jevons paradox, when efficiency gains lead to more consumption, not less. In the 19th century, as steam engines became more efficient at using coal use didn't fall. It skyrocketed. People found even more ways to burn it, driving up overall demand. Efficiency didn't solve the problem, it made it worse. But with AI, we see the reverse happening. Greater efficiency leads to job loss, which leads to less consumer spending, even as companies ramp up production. Let's call it the AI economic paradox. This isn't just a theory. We're already seeing early signs. Companies save money by automating, but consumer demand isn't rising fast enough to match. Imagine this at scale. AI enables a biotech company to develop a revolutionary new drug. But because millions are out of work, no one can afford them. Or AI invents a super battery, but EV demand shrinks because people are struggling to make rent. Or retail companies use AI to optimize supply chains and logistics, reducing their need for warehouse staff and drivers, only to see their revenue decline because those same workers can no longer afford to shop. We're not just talking about lost jobs, we're talking about an entire economic structure potentially undermining itself. The system is designed with a key assumption, that automation leads to lower prices and lower prices leads to more buying. But it's only true if people have income. If AI replaces humans in a way that severs that income and no replacement system is created, the whole thing starts to fall apart.
The replacement system, in my honest opinion, is called UBI. That's Universal Basic Income. That'll be the replacement where they give everybody a stipend. They're going to They're going to give everybody a stipend, X amount of money every single month. They're going to dish out to you X amount of money every single month. And X amount of currency. It's not going to be money. It's going to be currency. They're going to have a stipend amount. They're going to control it, and it'll be digitalized where they can see where everything goes. That's going to be the new economic structure, is give you a stipend. So therefore, you won't be able to rise to the top anymore. You'll be stuck in a class. And that's as far as you go.
Millions of people could be out of jobs. So who's going to retrain those people? Because if we don't figure that out, there could be social unrest because of joblessness.
And to be fair, there's a counter argument that AI won't just take jobs, it will create new ones too.
While it's feared AI technology could take our jobs, new research shows it's creating new roles across multiple industries.
And that's true to a point. The World Economic Forum estimates AI will eliminate 85 million jobs by 2025, but create 97 million new ones in fields like data science, AI safety, and robotics. And remember that scary-sounding Goldman Sachs report earlier that said 300 million jobs will be lost in the coming years? Well, there's a more recent analysis from the company looking at longer-term possibilities. In that report, they project a 7% increase in global GDP and a 1.5 percentage point boost in productivity over a 10-year period. Sounds like a good trade, right? But here's the rub. With those assumptions, many of those new jobs that people will transition into require highly specialized skills. And historically, when industries transform, workers don't always transition easily. Take this example. Between 2000 and 2010, the US lost 5.6 million manufacturing jobs. By 2010, only 39% of displaced manufacturing workers were reemployed, and most who found new jobs earned less than before. The AI job boom is concentrated in metro areas with strong tech sectors like San Francisco, Boston, and Shenzhen. That leaves behind rural and industrial communities without access to retraining and relocation support. Plus, even the new jobs being created can often involve supervising or refining AI systems that are doing the actual labor. A single AI manager might oversee processes that used to take 50 people, so the net employment effect is still uncertain. And here's something that rarely gets mentioned. Not everyone wants or is suited for retraining into tech. We can't expect a 58-year-old
Draw King, appreciate the follow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Is still uncertain. And here's something that rarely gets mentioned. Not everyone wants or is suited for retraining into tech. We can't expect a 58-year-old factory worker in Ohio to seamlessly become a machine learning engineer. So while new jobs may come, the distribution of those jobs and the time it takes to retrain may not match the pace of disruption. This isn't just a labor market issue, it's a social and political one. If we don't address the mismatch, we risk pushing more people into poverty, increasing inequality and fueling social unrest.
The risk is if we don't do anything about it now to retrain some of these people or to prepare for a post-AI employment landscape, we will have issues with a deepening divide between the haves and have-nots, the wealthy and the paycheck-to-paycheck people.
And we've seen what happens when economic shocks aren't handled well. The 2008 financial crisis led.
Well, remember, we saw the economic shock in the previous video that I just showed, the economic shock, where it showed where was it? What, they had 300,000 homeless people because of the fact, what was the reason why they had 300,000? I forget what it was. It slipped my mind. But they end up having 300,000 homeless people, and the usurers had to feed them. So there's always that period of where, you know, a lot of bad stuff happens and people become homeless, and then what they do is they end up resulting to whatever is given to them from the elites or government, and in that case it was not good. So we're kind of at that inflection point, which is coming again, and yeah, how are you going to handle it?
To years of stagnation and massive erosion of public trust.
Thank you, Draw Knight. Sorry, I said Draw King. Draw Knight, I appreciate the follow. Thank you, thank you.
The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated automation even further, particularly in logistics, food service, and retail, permanently eliminating millions of jobs. And now AI is supercharging that trend. A 2022 study published in the journal Demography found that an increase in automation between 1993 and 2007 led to increases in drug overdose deaths, suicide, homicide, and cardiovascular mortality.
Oh, wow.
And these aren't abstract numbers. They're indicators of human suffering.
Whoa.
Automation without safeguards doesn't just harm the unemployed, it weakens the entire economy. Consumer spending drops, innovation slows down, tax revenues fall, governments struggle to fund social programs. It creates a cycle that's incredibly hard to break. The thing that really kind of freaks me out, the companies at the center of this transformation are not incentivized to slow down. In fact, markets reward them for doing the opposite.
Cursor has reportedly hit a $9 billion valuation, a sign of just how quickly AI first coding or vibe coding is growing in Silicon Valley.
OpenAI announcing a record-breaking $40 billion deal.
So unless governments, institutions, and society as a whole intervene, we may be heading for a future where innovation explodes and prosperity implodes.
Exactly. There will be no more prosperity. It'll be just closing the door on people being prosperous and being able to climb up any financial ladder that they could become something greater, when you'll just be stuck in a lower class and never be able to get out of it.
How do you...
Oh man, we're almost done. We got like a few minutes left on this video, but yeah, so like I said, the only outcome I could see with this is UBI, universal basic income, where you are literally given a stipend, and if somebody controls how much money you make, and you're using someone else's form of currency and not employing yourself and creating some kind of wealth for yourself by trading currency for wealth at some point, or being able to generate anything for yourself, you're going to be stuck and enslaved to someone else's way of living, and that's going to be the perpetual cycle. Oh, whoops. Here we go.
So what do? There are ideas out there. Some are highly controversial. Others are still in pilot phases. One very controversial proposal is universal basic income.
There it is.
A flat monthly payment.
I called it.
To all citizens. Then a controversial proposal is universal basic income. A flat monthly payment to all citizens that ensures a minimum standard of living. Now, this would decouple survival from employment and give people time to retrain, start businesses, or just live with dignity. In Finland, a basic income trial showed increased well-being, health, and small business formation, even though it didn't significantly increase employment. Another idea is an AI dividend, or tax or licensing fee on companies that automate jobs, which gets redistributed to displaced workers or invested in job retraining.
Wow.
There's also reskilling programs, but they need to be dramatically scaled. And finally, there's the idea of decentralized AI ownership. Models where AI tools are open source and co-owned by cooperatives or communities, so that the economic value created doesn't concentrate in just a few hands. Now, these aren't magic bullets, but they represent a shift in thinking from maximizing efficiency at all costs to designing for inclusion and resilience. We're at a pivotal moment. The decisions we make now will determine whether AI becomes a force for broad human flourishing or just another engine for inequality. The AI revolution isn't coming. It's already here.
Yep.
But the most important breakthroughs, like the ones in medicine, energy, and science, are being overshadowed by flashy demos and short-term profit goals. We need to look deeper, because the real risk isn't AI turning evil or taking over the world. It's all of us using it so recklessly that we destroy the very systems that let innovation thrive. AI could solve some of the biggest challenges humanity has ever faced, but only if we solve the AI paradox first. But what do you think? Do you use AI tools today? Do you think AI will be a net benefit or a net negative?
I don't know. Net benefit, net negative, that all depends on the particular individual, on how they choose to use it and how fast they can get on it and teach themselves how to use these AI what would you call tools, these AI tools. But shout out to him, man. Give him a round of applause for that one. That was a very good video. For sure. That was a fantastic video. Now, looking at that should let you know, like, even Elon Musk had talked about UBI at some point, because they've even ran tests and trials on UBI. Like they said right there, they said in Finland, where is it right here? He said it right here, that in Finland, they had run a test run on UBI. Let me find it real quick. Right there it is right there. They ran a test run in Finland, and the experiment, the people on basic income reported large and statistically significant improvements in key drivers of well-being. Yeah, allegedly. Importance and impact of 4 well-being factors. Their mental health allegedly went up. Physical health slightly went up. Employment did not go up very high. And trust, not equitable. So therefore, the employment didn't go up. People just kind of just sat around and was like, hey, well, I'll just take this stipend and just keep it moving. Physical health, I guess you got some movement out of it. And mental health, I guess they felt a little bit more at ease. But when you have that, you don't have any. When you get a universal basic income stipend, a lot of people are going to lose purpose and reasoning for life itself. That's going to be the main issue. You're going to have to figure out what is your purpose and your reason for even existing or living on earth. That's going to be a huge, this is why I don't understand how this mental health thing is so much, because it's like, well, what am I doing here? And with the universal basic income, they said it's the minimum. So therefore, are you going to be able to raise a child or a family when you have this UBI stipend? That's the thing. That's the whole kicker of the whole thing. It's like, is it good enough for a family, or you can have a family in poverty? How is that going to work? Now, to kind of piggyback and go back to the previous thing where we're talking about looking at AI, looking at the trajectory that it's going on, and looking at the history that we just looked at when it came to usury and central banking and the enslavement of mankind, because that was the first video. It's talking about the enslavement of mankind. We got all the way up to a point where we see that AI is going to be taking over so many jobs and people are going to have a hard time making the transition, all the way up until a point where they already ran tests in countries using UBI and showing you the outcome in small little bitty pockets of the area. And it gets to a point where it seems like it's heading to a inflection point. It's heading to a tipping point of something like this. Sam Altman says one person can now build a $1 billion company with AI. One person can do this. Getting to that point where one person can run a $1 billion company. Just one. Can you imagine? Now remember, on the first video, it said that 2,000 people or 2,000 families had like majority of the wealth, and the rest of the population was in poverty. So if you got one person who can run a $1 billion company, if I'm one person running a $1 billion company, then guess what we finna do? We finna race to become the first person who can do $1 trillion. That's just how it goes. You're gonna keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. So right here it says everyone's quoting Sam Altman now like it's some revelations. You can now build a $1 billion company with just one person. But most people read that, nod, and then go right back to the manually chasing leads and tweaking their homepage for the 93rd time. Let me be blunt. You don't need more hustle. You need a machine. The one-person unicorn is not a theory. It's already here. And no, it's not just about ChatGPT writing tweets. I'm talking about AI agents. And so it says book appointments, qualify leads, follow up, close sales, and run your operations on autopilot. He says, I built this. Clients are scaling with this. And if you're still duct taping tools together, you're not just behind, you're actively burning money. He's just telling you, you're wasting your time on having other people help you. You can do this all on your own if you utilize these tools. Now let's let him talk about exactly what's going on here. So let's let him speak. Where is he at? Right here. Here we go.
We'll see 10-person billion-dollar companies pretty soon, like $1 billion valuations. And the thing that in my little group chat with my tech CEO friends, there's this betting pool for the first year that there's a one-person billion-dollar company, which would have been unimaginable without AI, and now it'll happen. We're going to see 10-person billion-dollar companies pretty soon, like $1 billion valuations. And the thing that in my little group chat with my tech CEO friends, there's this betting pool for the first year that there's a one-person billion-dollar company, which would have been unimaginable without AI, and now will happen.
It'll happen. It will happen. It's not a maybe. It's coming. It will happen. So one-person unicorn is not a theory. It's gonna happen. And it's showing you that, with AI agents and tools, you need to understand how to utilize and use these things. You should literally be spending your whole day's time learning AI tools and AI agents and how to utilize these things and use these things. Otherwise, having other people help you with things at this point in life, like he said, you're just burning money. Use courses, learn courses, what you need to do to learn and utilize all these tools, figure out what these AI tools are and utilize them, because that's what they're doing. So you need to be able to utilize these things to be able to keep up, because the way of the world in the past is over. In about the next 18 to 24 months, it's going to be a wrap. Things are going to change. By the time 2027 gets here, it's going to be a whole new world we're living in. In 2030, for certain, we're going to be walking around with robots in the street next to us, for sure. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's happening. It's coming, for sure. So that's what that is, and that's what's going to be happening here pretty soon. So just be on the lookout and pay attention to how serious things are actually going to be going. Now, if you need further understanding as to what I mean when I say these things, let me help you out here. So let's just take a look at this. This is going to be AI in Google VO and run rate to create an AI film. Tell me what you think. Let's take a look at this and tell me what you think. Here we go.
Hello, humans. I am Dr. Chip Motherboard, a totally real robotics expert. I am definitely not AI.
Okay, yeah, Chip is definitely AI. And I'm the real me, controlling that AI character. The film you're about to see, including Chip and all the other visuals, were created with AI video tools, including Google VO3. Most of the audio is also AI, except for...
Oh man, okay. Well, let's let this ad run real quick. It shouldn't take too much longer, but just remember what she said. Everything that you're gonna see is AI, including the voices. Every single bit we're gonna see is AI. So when you think you see a real person, it's not a real person. Everything is AI generated, okay? She ain't in the video. She's somewhere else. So just keep that in mind. Let's continue.
So stick around to the end to see how we did it. And action.
Here we go.
Rise and shine, Joanna. It's 6:15 a.m. It's going to be a great day. Oh, you'll feel better after a workout. I've sanitized your sports bra.
Thank you.
Women gonna love this.
I go up to max 5,000.
I mean, for the people that preach about role reversals in relationships and hate the roles that they play in marriages, this is a dream come true. Like, I don't got to play a role anymore. Like, the role that the woman used to do, now the woman can have someone else do that role that she used to do. And, you know, maybe the two heads can put their minds together and accomplish a lot more. But yeah, role reversal.
1,000 to make my life better. It has me waking up early.
Here's a tasty breakfast.
Eating healthy. I'm working out harder than I ever thought I could.
Remember, Jane Fonda always said, go for the burn, sweat. Get that chin up. That all you got? Pick up the pace.
I was a lead engineer on the Optonox 5000 robots. We designed them to optimize workplace efficiency.
Here, some deep research for your presentation.
And the robots really got creative with that.
Time for your coffee IV drip.
Max really keeps me sharp at work.
Do you not know how to spell February? Put the R before you.
Though now that I think about it, he's not usually the nicest.
Pop music rots your brain.
He's really becoming a lot. And there's really only one place I go to get a break from him.
My privacy policy prevents bathroom entry. My ultra-sensitive microphones indicate you are not engaged in elimination activities.
Exhausting. And that's when I realized I had to do something.
You're being enslaved by your own robot. That's what it looks like. Yeah, right. He ain't finna let you do that. Ain't no way.
Joanna, please don't do this.
Sun creeps in through the window pane. Dust motes dancing in
Good morning, Joanna. I made you your favorite
Coffee
breakfast.
brews in the old tin pot.
Now that's more like it.
I hope women don't believe that nonsense. I mean, it looked good at the beginning. I hope you don't believe that you're gonna be able to take your robot, put it down, and drill it, and then make it do what you. That is a fairy tale. Like that ain't gonna happen. If you want to know how the robot gonna react, go watch. I keep putting this movie out. Go watch Subservience. That's gonna tell you what the robot gonna do and how it's gonna dominate you.
Real me again, not Botox me. not video game me, not Ashley Judd me, and not zero gravity me. And those were actually the best of what we got. Roll the bloopers. So yeah, lots of issues. But we wanted to push the limits of AI video. We wanted to make a film with characters and humor and meaning. Art even. Enter Gerard Cole. Gerard is a longtime video and audio producer. To get the consistency right, he generated approximately 1,000 clips to make what you just watched. And after trying lots of AI video tools, we found Google Veo and Runway to be the best. Yes, in Veo or Runway, we could have typed in a woman and a robot working out and gotten something. And even though she looks exactly like me, with that simple technique, we wouldn't have been able to make those characters consistent in every scene. And by the way, these clips and the sounds you hear were generated with Veo 3, Google's latest model that combines visuals and audio. Our film is actually a mix of shots from both Veo 2, Veo 3, and Runway. Let's dissect this scene to see how we did it. First, we had to create and gather our characters. We used Midjourney to design our star, Optimax 5000. It took a few iterations. To create me, we gathered some photos, and the neighborhood was made in Runway. Then we took these images of the characters and the background and put them into Runway's references tool and wrote a prompt describing the scene we wanted. Out came the first frame of the scene. Then we fed that image into Google Veo and wrote a new prompt to create the motion. And then we picked the best version that AI generated. For some shots that didn't have characters, like in our suspense scene at the end, we used text-to-video prompts in Veo 3. And if you're wondering how we made this handsome fella, we used an image generator to create our ideal mad scientist. Then I did my best impression of how I thought he'd gesture and sound like on camera. Designed them to optimize workplace efficiency. And we uploaded the image and the video of me into Runway Restyle. Once we had the clips, we brought them into Adobe Premiere for editing and sound.
Max's voice.
And Chip's voice
were generated in 11 labs. The AI audio tool lets you describe the voices you want, or
I've actually done this before. I've actually done this on one of my live streams. I've done this. I've actually went through these things and they showed how to put these things together. I've done it. And it's not hard. It really is not hard at all to sit down and do these things. You just got to have the will to do them and, you know, just execute and have the money to pay for the subscription for all of these.
Even clone your own. But I recorded my own character because 11 Labs couldn't quite get my inflection right. Go away. And that song you hear at the end of the film? Made with Suno, an AI music generator. And yes, the script was written by us humans, not AI. We estimate the total cost would have been around $1,000 for Google and Runway's tools. We paid for some of it, and the companies gave us special access to the rest. So why did we put ourselves through all of this? Well, AI isn't perfect, but if we were making this in real life, we would have needed a crew and a much bigger budget. These tools are improving scarily fast, but they're nothing without human input, creativity.
The budget is the main thing. They spent about $1,000 and a little bit of extra access to do some extra stuff. So maybe, you know, with mistakes and everything, I would just give a ballpark and to be generous, under $5,000.
And original ideas. As the film hopefully reminded you, we are not robots.
Yeah, it did remind us we are not robots. However, like I said, it seemed like there was a two-man crew when they did this. I don't know, she didn't say how many people it took, but it seemed like it was her and him, that guy that came in. And two people put that whole little short film together. I'm assuming it could have been more or whatever, but two people, $5,000, and you have that whole thing that they put together. And it's not hard to do. It is not rocket science. All you got to do is just sit down and put your mind to it. It's not the hardest thing in the world. I would say, you know, learning prompt engineering would be one of the things that would help. And that's just one of the basics that you need to know. But being able to utilize all those tools and put them all together, you know, that would be just a simple. You're honest. You can learn it on YouTube at this point. You can learn that on YouTube, and you just need the money and the time to utilize these things. And if you don't have money and time, that's what's really holding everybody back. But yeah, that's another way to look at how AI is looking at how AI is being utilized. And if you want another look at it, I'll show you this video right here. You can look at this while I talk to you. But you know, using AI to your advantage and showing what it could do, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how it's moving. And that's the way we're going. It's the way of the world. It is no point in being afraid or scared. You should be ambitious and amped up and ready to, you know, make it happen and make something of what this opportunity holds ahead. Whatever money that you have, my opinion, put it into, you know, like it said, Tesla stocks is looking to improve 550% to a $5 trillion company. That right there should give you an idea. If one company is doing that, what are these other companies going to do when AI gets implemented within these next 5 to 10 year range? So you need to be sitting down, grinding your ass off and applying all of your energy into this, because the payoff, in my understanding, what it seems like, will be worth it. Well, that's it I got for today's show, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. I greatly appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all so much. Hopefully this gave some insight and gave you some wealth of knowledge that you can use and some motivation for you to show you where your mindset needs to be shifted at and where you need to be applying yourself. So with that being said, man, y'all take care. I'll catch y'all later. Probably be back on Monday to continue with these live streams. Until then, we'll see you later. Peace.
Then buy the dream. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. My fame won't stop, no, the only thing I'm chasing. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. Don't wait no nigga and I'm in the booth, playing beats. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. My fame won't stop, no, the only thing I'm chasing. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. Don't wait no nigga and I'm in the booth, playing beats. Counting cash and smoke green, can be blowing cloud like a smoke machine. She got notes to sing. Bumblebee ass, yeah, I know it's thing. I plug your bitch like a 6-string. Jordan with the bitches got 6 rings. Smoke till my bitch a split screen. The rest with pain pills and sipping lane. Riding dirty, but I'm extra clean. Lyrics nice, but I'm extra mean. All-star heavyweight like Wolverine. The bitch line says she over me. I flip money like Clover G. Gang hustle like TIP. It's hard baby like DIG. Acronym like KRT. The game on lock, and I got